Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Such a beautiful place, such a nice day. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wednesday, August 7th meeting of the California Coastal Commission. Ask Vanessa to move forward with the roll call, please.
I can't tell if Akiri's on there or not. Commissioner Bochco. Here. Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Commissioner Eckerly.
Here.
Commissioner Harmon.
Here.
Commissioner Lowenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Nutthoff.
Here.
Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Commissioner Uranga. Chair Hart.
Present.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to virtual meeting procedures
That's me.
with our soon-to-be departing Vale. This is her last meeting, so make it a good one. No.
Good morning. This Coastal Commission meeting is occurring both in person and through Zoom. This meeting is also being webcast and can be viewed online at cal-span.org. If you have access to the internet and wish to watch or listen to the meeting only and not speak on an item, we recommend you use the CalSpan website. Those who wish to address the Commission today can do so in person, through the Zoom platform, or by phone. The speaker request forms may be found on the Commission's webpage. Paper forms and a scannable QR code for paperless submittal are available on the Commission staff table just outside the meeting room. For those on Zoom, we have posted virtual hearing procedures on the Commission's agenda webpage, which is a guide on providing comments via Zoom or by phone. Members of the public speaking during general public comment may be given up to 2 minutes to speak at the discretion of the chair. Requests to speak during the general public comment period will not be accepted after 9 a.m. on each day of the meeting. In order to provide the opportunity for the broadest range of public participation, you may speak on a specific topic one time only each month. Those speaking on an agenda item that is not general public comment are typically allowed 2 to 3 minutes to speak at the discretion of the chair. We will accept a request to speak on an item up until the chair opens the hearing on that particular item. If you have access to the internet, please go to the Commission's webpage and click on the link to fill out a speaker request. If you do not have internet access or prefer to testify by phone, please call the Commission staff at 562-477-9089. Again, that number is 562-477-9089. Staff will provide you with a telephone call-in number and instructions for how to participate and provide testimony by phone. We will manage speakers coming in and out of the meeting through a meeting organizer. When it is your time to address the Commission, the organizer will invite you to turn on your video and microphone or provide instructions on how to unmute the phone. Madam Chair, that concludes virtual hearing procedures.
Thank you so much. Vanessa, we have Commissioner Aguirre is online, so we need to include her in the roll. Did you want to include her in the
Commissioner
roll?
Kunkel, too. I'm here, too.
She
And
is?
Commissioner Kunkel. My
And
Zoom
Commissioner-
wasn't up when I did the roll call, so I couldn't see
Right.
them.
Should we?
I got them.
Okay, so we'd just like to also welcome online Commissioner Aguirre and Commissioner Kunkel.
Thank you.
We
Great to
see
see
you, and thank you so much for zooming
Thank you.
in. All right, so now we'll move to agenda changes, please.
Thank you, Chair Hart, and good morning to the Commission and to everybody who's joining us today. The agenda changes sheet that was posted to our website earlier this week does remain accurate except for one addition that I will start with. So item 11A is postponed. This is the Bolinas Community Land Trust Emergency Housing Appeal. Staff discovered a noticing problem that needs correcting, and we do expect to reschedule that matter for next month. We also have item 12A that's moved to consent. That's application 224-481, the Caltrans Middle Mile Broadband Network. Item 12B is withdrawn. That's application 222-699, McCoy. Item 14A is moved to consent. That's LCP amendment number LCP 3 SLO 2423, the Joslin redesignation. Item 15A is postponed. That's the appeal A3 MRA 2426. This is the Monterey Salinas Transit Bus Road, and along with that is item 16A that's postponed. Application 323-288, again, the Monterey Salinas Transit Bus Road. Then item 18A is moved to consent. That's LCP amendment LCP 5, NPB 2319-1. That's the City of Newport Beach's single property zone change. Item 19A is postponed. That's appeal A5 LGB 2424 for Hotel Laguna. Item 20A is postponed. That's application A5 LGB 1923. That's Kinstler. Item 20C is postponed. That's application 524 0003, the Las Vegas Beach House mobile home. And last, item 20D is moved to consent, and that's application 524-204, the Maddocks mobile home. And that concludes agenda changes this morning.
Thanks very much, Mr. Schwang. All right, at this time then, we are going to open the meeting for public comment, and I'd ask how many speakers we have here in person and also online.
We have 10 in person and 13 online.
Okay, that's great. So we'll start with the folks that are here in person, and everyone will have 2 minutes.
I believe we have the board chair and vice chair of the Santa Monica Conservancy here that would like to speak.
Oh, Mr. Edmonton. Welcome. It's so wonderful to see you.
They're somewhere on the 101 freeway, and we claim that this is the geographical center of the Santa Monica Mountains. Somehow our board chair and vice chair can't quite find that, but no, I'm sure that they're appropriately in lane, obeying all the speed limits. So who knows when they'll be here. My purpose is to welcome you. I'm Joe Edmiston. I'm the Executive Director of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and Executive Officer of the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority. Now, did you all sleep well last night? Okay, good, because there probably were a couple of mountain lions purring their way across, and you had a chance to look at the wildlife crossing. Isn't that exciting? The commitment on the part of everyone, including Caltrans, right down to the lowest staff person. So that is a heartwarming event. And you've made all of that possible because of the, shall we say, regulatory environment that helps animals almost as much as it helps developers. And I'd say right now, we're helping the animals a little bit better. So welcome. We don't have, they say no food and drink in the auditorium. I'm going to take that sign away and pass out coffee. But, and when our board officials arrive, I'm just going to have them just, okay, Steve, when did you sneak up? Just right now. Okay. You didn't catch those snide comments I made, did you? Okay, all right. Steve Veras, board chair of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and elected board member of the Los Angeles Community College District. So we get educated and we get the environment conserved all in one.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I apologize for my tardiness. I did it about as fast as I can get from dropping a kid at summer camp to get to this location here. So, welcome. It's a real joy to have you here at this property. It's a special property, and like many of the properties and many of the activities that the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and the MRCA are involved with, these are results of activism. They're results of community coming together, being able to work with their government, and to be able to put these really special places in the hands that can preserve them and allow them to be accessed from the public for generations to come. And I think it's hugely important. We take our role and those of us that serve there of stewardship very seriously. And you know, it's a joy, you know, to see many of you here. Some of you have had a chance to work with in other parts of our lives and careers. Linda for the past years of service, and Dana for joining us now. And so it was great to have this entity attending our meetings to provide a voice and to provide a feedback and an update, and that's very exciting for us to have that. Part of, and I know Dana was our last presentation where we were talking about coastal access and some of the properties that the agency holds and some of the struggles we have to allow, you know, some of the region's youth, and particularly from working class neighborhoods and zip codes that are distressed by environmental justice questions and sometimes poverty. And it always sort of frustrates me today that we can still see people in our service territory and their families who've not accessed the coast, who have not accessed real wildlife spaces. And so as we build the constituency and the efforts to be able to be unified to understand that our environment is critical and important to everybody, having the kinds of projects and programs and advocacy and the regulations and the working together and the compromises and the sort of facilitation efforts that take place is really vital. We're all connected, but it's amazing that the borders and boundaries between a family on the east side of Los Angeles or South LA can be enormous. Not just a few miles, but enormous. And I've really taken, you know, a lot of my great interest in being a young person who grew up on the east side, who took special joy when the family took the road trip down, you know, Pico and Olympic to get out to Santa Monica and the pier here. It always rang true in my heart that those experiences leave an indelible impact on youth and families. And, you know, we have really endeavored in our Rivers program. And the great thing about rivers is rivers really do start in urban neighborhoods. And they come down the watershed and they run through the backyard and all the tremendous work that's happened. And it's connected to the mountains and it's connected to the coast. And so they all are an ecosystem that work together, and to understand that moves together and that flows together is really critical. But I started with this idea of advocacy, and because you know, we just got a recent update about I guess it's our Proposition 4. That's on the, was it 4 or 5? 4. Both of them are important. So schools from that hat is really valuable, and obviously when we talk about our climate, it's very valuable. And so it does a lot of good to inform the public about all the good work that happens and that can be put into place by these concepts and these ideas. And so, so I thank you for your stewardship. I thank you for your engagement. I thank you. I hear every so often all the efforts to make the coast accessible, to ensure that there's a presence for everyday people. And that's super valuable. And I think the work that the agencies can do together and can work together on is really a model for generations to come. And so, welcome to King Gillette. Welcome to the property here. We do our meetings in a little smaller room down here on the side, and we get yelled about food too. So, but this, as you're out and around and knowing this is a piece of an ecosystem that involves land, people, and animals, and a lot of fun stuff happening, a lot of coordinated stuff happening, but we always want to stay grounded in the fact that the impact we make is incredibly valuable to people of all incomes, people of all backgrounds, and that's really critical. I'll leave with this from the LA Community College District. We've taken a very special interest, and so as you see these programs coming up on the education side, to create degrees, to create associate's degrees that can help us train the future of our workforces, the future of people involved. It's kind of like, it's a space where we have to acknowledge that it's a specialized skill to understand the new climate that we're in. And I say the new climate in multiple meanings. We are engaged with wildfire conversations. We're engaged with transitioning our workforce. We're engaged with interpretation conversations. And we're engaged with even this simple, sometimes not so simple, planning processes to ensure that all the ecosystems work together. And so I know at West LA College, we have a climate center that we've engaged and created one of the first community college degrees in climate adaptation, which is an important push for systems to begin that next generation of learning about the workforce. But as you consider interning, as you consider opening opportunities and positions and hiring, we've done it at our agency and done quite a bit to acknowledge some of the ways that we can be an open, welcoming space for communities of interest that may never have been connected to nature and the environment, to create that ultimate big picture calling and advocacy that all works together. So with that, thank you and welcome, and it's going to be a joy to see you do your work here.
Thank you so much. And before we call the next public speaker, I just wanted to mention a couple things. First of all, as part of our meetings more recently, we've acknowledged, beyond acknowledging the indigenous land on which we are meeting and acknowledging those tribal cultures, we ideally like to call out work that has been done in the area. And in this moment, I'd like to recognize the Santa Monica Mountains. I assume this is national parks and the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy for the creation of the, and tell me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, it's the Satwiwa Cultural Center, which is it's a visitor center that recognizes the history of the Chumash and the Tongva Gabrielino cultures here in this area. And it sounds as if there is a Native American guest host or a park ranger on hand to answer questions at the visitor center. And I can tell you, if we get out early one of these days, I'm very much looking forward to going there. And I wanted to thank you. And of course, is it Director Edmiston? Is that what you go by? Your formal? Czar. I was going to mention, in my mind, and I know for all of us, there's really no way to express our gratitude for the incredible work you've done through your life here and what you've created. It's really breathtaking to be here, I think. Yes, Commissioner.
And I just wanted to acknowledge and thank the Mountains Trust for recognizing the work of Linda Laughlin on the Coastal Commission staff and all the work that she's done to help provide, working with you and the local community to provide access along the California coast. And that was very lovely for you, recognizing her and honoring her. So thank you very much.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I also, if the Commission, just take a moment to express my gratitude to Commissioner Bochco and just take a moment to talk about the incredible tour that we had yesterday of the Annenberg Wildlife Crossing.
Yes, well, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Joe and Chair Barras. It's such a pleasure for me, personally, to be here today, having been able to show my fellow commissioners and our staff the wonderful project, the Wallace-Annenberg Crossing. I was invited, I think it's been about 6 or 8 years ago, by Senator Fran Pavley, who is also on our commission, to join in the efforts to get the funding for the crossing. And at the time, the crossing was thought to be about 70 million because of the width of lanes that it has to go over, because it's not only like 10 or 12 lanes of freeway, there's 2 lanes of road on either side. So it became this immense project that gratefully came to fruition thanks so much to Caltrans, which have done phenomenal work, to the governor, who was personally involved in helping us clear a lot of hurdles, to Secretary Crowfoot, who has been our champion from the beginning, but mostly to Joe and Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, because if that land didn't exist, and we were told this yesterday, Rory came to talk to us about the Conservancy's role in the crossing. If that land didn't exist, there would be no crossing. And Joe had the foresight all those years ago. I mean, we're talking like, I think the 70s, right, Joe? To buy this land, which wasn't easy to acquire, and over time, more and more, so that this all became a reality. So I'm grateful to all of those folks, as well as my dear commissioners who are just like souls. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's just remarkable, and I just can't wait. I cannot wait to see that completed. Commissioner Escalante just has a comment.
Thank you, Chair, and it's so great to see you, Chair Veras and Director Czar Edmonston. You know, the only part of Malibu that I knew and that I had visited when I was growing up in the very hot San Fernando Valley was Zuma Beach. And until yesterday that I took a tour, and I started early, you know, to kind of avoid traffic and the heat, because now I'm a North Coaster, so this heat is killing me. But I am from LA, y'all. My soul has not left. I started going to the sort of micro beaches, the ones that MRCA and the Conservancy have fought so hard to open up access to and keep access open through all the battles and the tribulations. And I stepped foot in walk through every single gate. I know it's a lot of work to keep that infrastructure and to keep that harmony with the neighbors, with nature itself, and the impacts of the erosion and the elements. So your work is remarkable. It's been a real honor to have seen it from behind the scenes, and yesterday for me it was quite moving, you know, to be in Carbon Beach, Hidden Beach. I mean, places I'd never seen before, never had set foot on, and a couple of times it was just me. It was just me down there, which I found quite miraculous in LA, a county of 10 million people. So that's when I realized that, yes, I mean, Chair Veras, that you're absolutely right. I wish I could have been screaming. I wish I had I was an influencer, I had a huge following. You know, do the micro beach grand tour, I went to Lechuza. I went all the way up to Lechuza and try to fight my way through and try to get down there. And there were people down there. It was for folks from the public, and it was a remarkable experience, and I felt very connected. And then driving through the mountains here, through a canyon I'd never been through before. Lived in this area for almost 40 years, never had driven through the canyon past Las Virgenes. And also saw the great work that you guys, you know, do in the mountains that we did, because I was the ex officio before Commissioner Bochco. So it was a very emotional, which is why I missed the corridor opening, because I just couldn't stop and looking at the map. Oh, this is a pitch for our Your Coast app. That's how I was getting. It was that and Apple Maps, and that's how I was finding all the beaches, and it was just phenomenal. It was so easy. I wish we could have a PSA on every commercial break that says something about your Coast, the app, and all the great public access work that you guys do. But I'm glad that you're working with the schools. I think that's, if I would have been able to do that when I was young, I mean, maybe I would have been even more enthusiastic about coastal protection than I am now. Can you imagine? That would have been scary. But anyway, it's so good to see you all, and it's wonderful to be back home.
Thank you.
From my standpoint, you're still young.
Commissioner Uranga.
There we go. Does that work? All right. Cool. Chair Veras, it's been a while. Chair Veras, Steve, and I go back to the time when I was a trustee at Long Beach City College. How many years you been a trustee now?
11 years.
11 years. It's been a while. Well, I've been out for a while myself. So, but welcome, and I appreciate your welcoming remarks, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing with the LA Community College District. It's wonderful work, and I'm glad to see that you've encouraged education. I might be here, and I might be on the city council in Long Beach, but education is my heart, and you still are. You're still there, and I'm very happy to see you there. So welcome to our meeting that we're having here today. And this is a great facility, and it's always a great opportunity to come and see another part of the coast. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. With your double mics, we'll get that straightened out. Commissioner Lowenberg, you have a big wasp on your mic, just in case you feel like saying anything. Wanted to make sure you were. See, we're in the Santa Monica Mountains. Some wildlife. All right. And I want to thank the public for allowing the commission to express their thoughts about the amazing area we're in and everything that happened yesterday. But now I'd like to return, please, to the next public speaker.
Okay, so again, we have 22 speakers, the first 10 of which will be in person here in the room. For members of the public, I will be announcing the names of the upcoming speakers and invite you to speak when it is your turn. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes during general public comment. In order to allow for live video testimony on Zoom, we will be bringing you in as panelists. As we bring you in, your Zoom will reload, which may take a moment. To speed up this process, we will bring several people in at a time, but please remain muted and keep your video off until we ask you to speak. After your time is up, you will be moved back to attendee mode. For members of the public present in the room, I will call your names in the order that they appear on our sign-up list. When you hear your name, please line up behind the podium and announce yourself with your name when you approach to speak. Several helpful tips. There's a raise hand function that will help us find you in the Zoom attendee list. If you are using a phone for audio, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. If you're participating by Zoom, you should see a button on your Zoom screen. If you have signed up to speak for general public comment and are able to do so, please raise your hand now. When it is your time to speak, we will invite you to unmute and turn on your camera. You can unmute yourself on a phone by dialing *6. Please remember to state your name for the record. So first we will start in the room with Cindy Harden, followed by Bruce Lee Silverstein, followed by Sherry Cecil. I can't really see behind this behind the pole. So, okay.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Good morning, Commissioner. Cindy Harden with Los Angeles Audubon and Nature Nexus Institute. I'm so glad to hear all about access to our beautiful native habitats here. I've been doing that since 1999, providing field trips for underserved schools at the Ballona Wetlands. And of course, I'm here to talk about Ballona Wetlands. Several years back, there was found to be a violation of the Coastal Act with some illegally installed drains. The Coastal Commission, thankfully, caught that after it was being reported by a citizen, and the drains were capped. They are now collecting, that area, which is East Area B, is now collecting rainwater. Vegetation has returned, wildlife is thriving. There is now talk of completely removing the drains, which we find to be unnecessary. The drains have already been capped, and the purpose is being served of collecting rainwater. What we are asking is that the drains not be removed, which would require bulldozing and further destruction of habitat, instead capped and pinched more thoroughly, and that the cost should be absorbed by Playa Vista, the original installers of said drains, not the taxpayers of our state. I also want to talk about the absentee management of Ballona. Ballona continues to degrade due to invasive vegetation and a lack of stewardship. I know tons and tons of nonprofits that would be happy to come in and weed. Our castor bean forest continues to grow and prosper in areas that are very visible to the public. And the westernmost tidal flap is broken, allowing salt water to flow into the marsh and flooding our salt pan all the time. Thank you. Nice to see everyone.
Bruce Lee Silverstein, Sherry Cecil, Victor de la Cruz.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Bruce Silverstein. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, however brief it may be. I am a member of the Malibu City Council, but I'm speaking here today in my personal capacity. I want to make that clear. Two quick points. First, as a member of the City Council, I have participated in multiple land use matters in which a majority of the City Council have deliberately refused to apply the Malibu LCP in a manner consistent with this Commission's precedent and guidance. That's for approvals of development that contradict the LCP. Some council members have even said they do not care how this Commission construes the LCP and that this Commission can reverse the decision if it doesn't agree. And that's exactly what happened on at least one of those occasions. Others are pending. I just want to encourage you to take a hard look at the appeals that come to you from approvals out of Malibu, because a majority of the council members just go on their personal predilections and not based on what the law is. Second point, I filed an appeal as an individual 4 years ago, close to 5 years ago, August 29, 2019, CDP number 19025. Since that time, the Commission has not taken any action on my appeal. Additionally, I've been told the Commission's staff has met to discuss the appeal with the respondents, the landowner and SCE. They have not spoken to me. I've asked multiple times. They have not spoken to me. I'm not going to say they refused, but they just have not. But they've spoken with the other side of the appeal. My appeal, they've spoken with them. It's been 5 years now. No action's been taken. That does not speak well for transparency. And I would encourage the Commission to have their staff either not speak to either party or speak to both parties. Last point, and I believe in speaking truth to power. I appreciate much of what the MRCA does. In Malibu, we have some problems with the MRCA. You just gave them a half an hour of general public comment when we get 2 minutes. When I was mayor, I did not give 1 second more to anyone whose positions I completely agreed with, or 1 second less than they were entitled to if I disagreed with them. So I don't think that is appropriate or fair. Thank you.
Sherry Cecil.
Thank you.
Victor De La Cruz.
Just 1 sec. Just ask council if you have any comments or responses to that.
Well, my response would just be that this commission also does not give extra time to people with which it agrees or reduces time. We have objective rules that the chair imposes on each hearing that we have.
Thanks so much. And I would just note that I think mainly what we were discussing was acknowledging our visit yesterday. Probably should have come before public comment. That was my fault, and I take responsibility, but I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you, sir. All right, next speaker, please.
My name is Sherry Cecil. I'm not a politician or a big shot in any way. I'm a housewife and a homeowner from Ventura, and I braved LA traffic for an hour to get here today, just to thank you guys so much. When I lost my high-powered job 10 years ago, I became an Airbnb host from my modest coastal home just so I can make my next mortgage payment. Remarkably, my small Airbnb business has paid both my mortgage and my property taxes every month for the past 10 years. My city tried to stop short-term vacation rentals, but your edict saying that home sharing allows affordable access to beaches for families stopped them cold. More important than keeping me housed, your decision impacted my loved ones deeply by giving me the flexibility to care for my aging parents. Sadly, I lost my father, but I was able to see and take care of him every single day in his final years. Sharing my home gave my parents and myself the gift of time, and for that, I will be eternally grateful. It was your decision to keep the coastal zone open to short-term vacation rentals that did that. I am the typical Airbnb host, hosting out of my only property and running a small business to help with the rising cost of living in California. My dad always told me to speak from the heart and people will hear you. I hope you hear me today and continue to protect hosts like me in the coastal zone. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time today.
Victor De La Cruz, Tanya Pineda, Valeria Serna.
Good morning. I think I submitted a PowerPoint that I was hoping to share.
Bringing that up now.
All right, thank you. Oh, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Victor Dela Cruz with Manat, Phelps & Phillips. I represent Peter Krause and the Miramar Homeowners Association. Today, you will hear from multiple community members from Pacific Palisades about an incredible amount of grading, vegetation removal, and landform alteration at 636 through 720 Paseo Miramar, none of which was done with a coastal development permit or, for that matter, any valid permits from the City of Los Angeles. As you know, the Coastal Act empowers you with the ability to issue cease and desist orders and restoration orders, together with civil fines for the violations that have occurred. We urge you to please take action and create a real deterrent so that what I'm about to show you never happens again. The first slide above gives you a sense of how this site, immediately adjacent to Topanga State Park, looked a few months ago. Next slide, please. And this is the site now, all without any permits. If you look into this, next slide, you'll learn that this developer has been trying to lay the groundwork for a future development on the lots represented by red X's here by doing as much as he can without permits in order to alter the CEQA baseline. This is illegal, but in this case, it's also especially dangerous because the work is being done on an active landslide, which is shown here in white. Next slide. Here you'll see all the grading done in the landslide area directly below my client's homes, again, without permits. Next slide. Another perspective. This photo, next slide. This photo here shows what we understand is the boundary with Topanga State Park. As you can see, the work extended onto state parkland. Next slide. Maybe one more slide, please.
You need a permit, and you know you need a permit.
I don't need a permit.
Next slide. So as you see, the developer feels they don't need any permits for any of this. The city, while it has issued a memo after the fact acknowledging that proper permits were not obtained and stating that the work has created significant concerns about landslide destabilization, ignored our calls to stop destruction while it was happening and appears unlikely to take any further action. And so we're here to please ask for your help to take some enforcement action on this front. Thank you.
Tanya Pineda. Valerie.
Thanks, folks. If you want to express support, if you could just wave your hands, that would be great. Okay.
Tanya Pineda,
Yes.
Valeria Serna, and Anna Shore.
I'm here also presenting with my colleague Naomi Marus, and we requested 6 minutes for today's presentation.
So you're the person that communicated with me earlier
Yes.
regarding that? Okay, and I agreed that you could have 6 minutes.
So, good morning, commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present the. Can you put my presentation as well, please?
We'll bring that up right now.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for allowing us this time and for the opportunity to present the results from the 34th Annual Beach Report Card from Hilde Bay. I am Dr. Tania Pineda, and together with my colleague Naomi Maris, we are both water quality specialists and will do this presentation. For more than 30 years, next slide please, Hilde Bay started publishing the Beach Report Card to keep people safe when they go to the beach, and also to advocate about the potential health risks associated with contaminated water. We provide letter grades for more than 600 beaches along the West Coast, based on the exceedance of the state water quality standards. We currently have a webpage and an application that allows you to check the weekly water quality reports for your favorite beach spot. In addition, I would like to mention that we also have a similar system, the River Report Card, where we publish weekly grades about the 35 freshwater sites in LA County. And only this, the River Report Card, the results are only published during the summer. If you want to have access to full reports, I encourage you to visit our website, hildebay.org. Next slide, please. For this year's results and to provide more context, we can look at these tables. The good news is that during the summer, when most of the people are recreating and visiting all our coastal beaches, our results shows that 89% of these beaches are safe to swim. And during the winter dive grades, the results were below average when we compare this to the previous 5 years. Meanwhile, the wet weather values were above average. But why do we see this pattern? Next slide, please. Mainly because we received 31% more rainfall than the previous years, which resulted in a diminished capacity to collect water samples, and this is likely why the wet weather grades were not as bad as we expected. While the winter trade, the main cause, it was because it presented a prolonged presence of pollutants. In addition, we also saw over 38 million gallons of sewage entering California's waterways, making a continuous trend of infrastructure challenges under wet weather conditions. On the good news, next slide, please. 12 beaches qualify for this year's honor roll, which was an improvement from previous years. Orange County is leading this list because there is less urban development, there are more green areas, and also there are more stormwater capture projects compared to the rest of the state. Next slide, please. However, we also identified 10 beaches that received the poorest grades during the summer dry season. The majority of these beaches are in the Southern California and Mexico. The main cause of this bad water quality were urban runoff, untreated water, and recurring pollution issues. 4 main areas are leading this list. San Mateo County, next slide please, it's home to the recurring beach bombers. Linda Mar Beach, ranked as number 5, is impacted by the pollution of San Pedro Creek, while Lakeshore Park, 6 on this list, is set within a stagnant bay channels. This is a good example of the difficulty of managing pollution in static environments. This underscores also the need for targeted pollution management strategies in the county. Next slide, please. In Los Angeles County, Santa Monica Pier, ranking at number 3 and also a recurrent beach bomber, faces ongoing challenge despite upgrades including the stormwater captures and the bird deterring netting. On the 10th place, we have Marina del Rey Motors Beach. It's an enclosed beach with limited circulation, and when we add these 2 factors, it's a synonymous of poor water quality. Hilde Bay is working with the city of Santa Monica to create water quality task force to make recommendations about the water quality improvements.
Next slide, please. If we go a little bit further down the coast, as you all know, there's been some pretty significant pollution in the cross-border region near San Diego, coming from both the Tijuana River as well as the San Antonio de los Buenos plant, and this has led to a lot of poor grades in the San Diego and Tijuana beaches. We'd like to acknowledge the Coastal Commission's commitment to addressing this issue and would also like to thank the Commission for these continued efforts. It is worth noting our beach report card does not account for all of the beaches in the San Diego area. While we do support the development of new technology such as digital drop PCR, our current grading methodologies do not allow for us to use these results, and thus we have not graded some of the beaches in the area. However, we are looking for ways to incorporate these data into our future reports and invite any collaborations or future conversations with those who are knowledgeable on the topic. If we go to the next slide, we can go a little bit more in depth on the San Diego region. We had 4 beach bummers in this area. The top beach bummer in California was the Tijuana River mouth, which has seen significant challenges due to the millions of gallons of pollution that are dumped into the water almost daily. We also saw the Tijuana Slough, as well as 2 sites at Imperial Beach, which are also facing similar challenges, so it's no surprise that they're on this list. If we go to the next slide here, I think we're a bit short on time, so I won't go too in depth on some of these sites, but we're seeing a lot of similar issues in the Tijuana region as we're seeing in San Diego, which is not a surprise again because a lot of the substantial infrastructure improvements are needed, as well as effective sewage treatment solutions. And if we go here to our last slide, we want to highlight that climate change has really made an impact on this year's grades. Here in Los Angeles, where nearly every square inch of land is covered by concrete or asphalt, more rain equates to dirtier waterways, with urban runoff being one of the #1 sources of coastal pollution here. We'd like to just thank the Commission for their continued efforts to ensure that our coasts are safe and accessible for all. Thank you all.
Next is Valeria Serna, followed by Anna Shore, and then Melanie Algas.
Good morning. Hi, sorry. My name is Valeria Serna. Thank you for
We'll have
taking...
to reset the clock.
Oh, okay, good.
Just 1 sec. All right.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you for meeting with us today. My name is Valeria Serna. I'm a resident of Pacific Palisades, and specifically, I'd like to talk to you about Paseo Miramar, where there is illegal activity happening of a developer and grading. occurring with unchecked and, sorry, there is illegal activity occurring in unchecked neighborhood, specifically the owners of 646 through 720 Paseo Miramar, illegally grading and excavating his lots to prepare them for future residential development. They are doing so without permits from the city and coastal commission, and is doing so within a historic landslide area. The Bureau of Engineering's recent geotechnical investigation found that, quote, the recent cuts into the landslide area, an area outside the limits of the landslide, have potential to erode and more easily such the slope could mobilize in the downslope direction due to the degradation and complete loss of lateral support. As a resident of this biologically and geotechnically sensitive neighborhood, it is abhorrent that the city would admit to the fact that it has let this property owner engage in illegal grading activity with the potential to erode and collapse a slope adjacent to a state park and upon which houses are already built, but does nothing to stop the illegal activity and require the developer to fix what he has done. These parcels are within the Coastal Commission, which also has jurisdiction over these unauthorized activities. Please require that the property owner and its partners seek and obtain coastal development permits before moving forward with any more work. And please be aware that this developer proposes projects in this construction site or for more homes, multiple homes of these lots. Please do not be deceived in thinking, as the city was, that all the homeowner seeks to do is move some mud. This is a historic landslide. Thank you for your time.
Anna Shore, Melanie Algas, Pedro Toscano.
I just wanted to share with you what it's like to be boots on the ground on Paseo Miramar. I live at the house.
Do you want to pull your mic up just a little bit?
Absolutely.
And this is the same project now.
It is.
Okay.
Is this better? Okay.
Sorry, that's great.
Thank you. So I live at the house right where the abandoned road begins, where there used to be a barrier. I woke up one morning to our cul-de-sac full of trucks and bulldozers, and they removed the barrier, and they sawed off the street sign, set it aside, and they began their work immediately, bulldozing the road, chainsaws, cutting down shrubbery on the state park side as well as on private property side. When I came out, they said that they're allowed to do this. They're just doing fire clearance. Well, it took us a little while to find out that they didn't have permits, and once they did, my neighbor and I got out and we stood in front of the bulldozer and didn't let them go any further. It was very upsetting, and we were made to feel bad for that. It took a few hours, and then the crew left. They gave up. The next morning, 5 of us were out there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and all the crews arrived, and they weren't allowed to work. A few hours later, the owner and developer of this land came. He was very angry, and he was yelling at us and told us that we were on his property and to get out. When that didn't work, he got in his Lamborghini SUV and drove right up to us and was shouting at us and yelling at us and just laid on his horn. He said he was going to call the cops. When that didn't work, he asked one of his crew members to pull a 14-wheeler truck up behind us. At this point, I went in the house and I called the police. It was escalating. He appeared irate, and it was quite scary. When I came out, he was in the driver's seat behind where my neighbors were standing, laying on the horn. And if you've ever heard a semi-truck just honk their horn once on the highway, you can just imagine what it's like to stand behind that. It was very frightening, and I thank you for helping us. We really need your help. Thank you.
We have 3 more in-person speakers before we move to Zoom. Melanie Algas, Pedro Toscano, Maura O'Neill.
Good morning. I'd like to strongly request that the Commission support short-term rentals as a way to enable hosts to afford living in California while also allowing guests an affordable way to enjoy our state's beautiful coastal areas. My husband and I have lived in Woodland Hills for nearly 33 years. We started renting short-term on Airbnb in 2016 as a way to help pay our mortgage, raise a family, and address high property taxes. Over the years, several guests have stayed in our room in our home to visit nearby beaches such as Santa Monica and Zuma. We've referred guests to our favorite local businesses, restaurants, and shops promoting businesses. In 2019, I was laid off after 17 years at a worldwide investment firm in downtown Los Angeles. I took a significant pay cut when I started working again in the Valley. Starting in 2014, my husband had a series of severe medical illnesses that deemed him permanently disabled. He was no longer able to work. Our family income was drastically cut. Most recently, I've been laid off after 14 years at a local insurer. So at this point, renting a room in our house is critical to help us meet our cost of living, the expensive life in California. I wanted to point out, though, we are in our home when guests are there, so there's no disruption to the neighborhood. I thank you all for supporting Host and encouraging guests in an affordable way to visit our beautiful state. Thank you.
Pedro Toscano. Maura O'Neill.
Hello and good morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair, and Commissioners on the Zoom universe. We just wanted, my partner and I, we work with the Western States Carpenters, and we represent 3 counties, Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo. But we want to bring awareness to all the projects, commercial, residential, that fall in the Coastal Commission's district and lines. We just would like to please ask to consider implement California State accredited apprenticeship standards and requirements on such projects that get approved by the Coastal Commission. Over the last 3 years, we've been working with our state representatives to help us write some languages. SB4 is one of those that we were part of. AB 2011, which is one of the most recent ones, and there is a lot of bonuses that developers could get on this if they use these implements and have apprenticeships participate in their projects. Now, they don't have to be public works. Public works is schools, roads. That happens at the state level. I'm talking about private jobs, private projects that developers could use these SB4, AB 2011, and it would help have accredited apprenticeship programs participate and build these projects and earn a great living and spend the money locally. So thank you very much. I appreciate it for the time.
Maura O'Neill, and then we'll move to Zoom with Glenn Rogers and then Adam Leverins.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Maura O'Neill. I'm a policy analyst and advocate for Better Neighbors LA, a coalition of hosts, tenants, and community members who conduct data analysis on the short-term rental industry. Today, I'd like to speak about the LA County short-term rental ordinance and urge you to approve it as submitted when it comes before the Commission. Since 2019, unhosted STR listings in unincorporated LA County have grown by 132%, taking almost 2,800 homes off the long-term rental market. 1 in 5 of these listings are in unincorporated coastal areas such as Marina del Rey. And of the 784 LA County STR listings in the coastal zone that we found, 92% of these were unhosted. Each of these represents the loss of valuable coastal housing stock. To tackle this growing issue, the LA County Board of Supervisors underwent a multi-year public input process to develop an ordinance intended to safeguard housing stock for long-term residents while also preserving a pathway for residents to use home sharing to make ends meet, like the people we heard from earlier. Following this process, on March 19th, the LA County Board of Supervisors unanimously passed an ordinance that limits STRs to registered primary residences, requires an annual registration and renewal, and limits unhosted stays to 90 days in the calendar year. LA County's ordinance allows for home sharing while restricting unhosted short-term rentals to protect residents from displacement. You've seen ordinances like this before and approved them in places like Half Moon Bay. And when the ordinance comes before you, we urge the Coastal Commission to pass it as submitted and with all possible haste because the residents of LA County cannot wait. Thank you.
Next is Glenn Rogers, followed by Adam Leverins, and then Anne Marie Stenton on Zoom. Glenn Rogers?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
So
we
are
can
we
hear you.
moving to Zoom now? Okay.
Yes, we're on Zoom.
Council, could I just ask you, is it appropriate for us to ask questions with regard to public comment that was here in person, so these folks don't need to stay through all the Zoom if they don't want to, or do we need to wait to the end?
I think it would be better to wait to the end, and
Okay.
then just a reminder that the questions are just to determine whether something should be added to the agenda, not to really discuss a matter.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rogers, you can begin.
Thank you. I'm Glenn Rogers. I'm the president of the Coalition for San Francisco Neighborhoods. I'm a landscape architect and a journalist. And I'd like to point out to you on the southern portion of the Great Highway in San Francisco, we have willful negligence occurring. As you can see, these pipes are leaking. And next slide, please. And also there is water coming underneath the highway, causing erosion underneath the asphalt. Next slide, please. Here you can see there's a very steep divot here, and this is where traffic, used to be able to go down and into the Great Highway. Next slide, please. You can see how close this is to the ocean. So this is definitely in the Coastal Commission's sphere of influence. Next slide, please. Here we have the Great Highway, and there is a consideration of having this closed and having it only be for recreational use. However, as you can see right next to it, this median, 40 feet wide, it's plenty large enough to be able to take care of any recreational activities that need to be done there. That being said, there's the snowy plover habitat that is present on the beach. And today, the snowy plover habitat is only intruded on where intersections are. However, if the Great Highway was open to numerous people, 10,000 people, some would say, the beach will be destroyed as people will be able to go to the ocean from every direction. Thank you.
Next is Adam Leverins, followed by Anne Marie Stenton, and then Peter Kraus. Adam, I see that you're unmuted and your camera's on.
Okay, yes, and I have a graphic I'd like called up, please, as I
Yes,
begin.
we're bringing that up now.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners and staff. Again, I'd like to thank you for your concern about issues related to mooring permits in Newport Beach. Reviewing briefly, the State Lands Commission sent a letter to the city on April 9th observing a significant disparity between rates among piers, residential piers, and moorings, and they noted that it was an opportune time to address that disparity. On July 9th, the Coastal Commission sent a similar letter to the city expressing the same concerns, and that very night, Marin Council voted to increase those residential pier permit fees by a scant 1 to 2 cents a square foot per year and increase mooring permit fees by hundreds of percentages. On July 22nd, a more harshly worded letter from State Lands was sent to the city. This one was CC'd the Attorney General's office, and that compelled the city to pause in their actions. This last letter uses the term illegal private profiteering to describe mooring permit transfers. I find it distressing to think that I, as a mooring permittee, along with other whistleblowers on questionable city conduct and actions, now find myself accused as being an illegal private profiteer when I am paying more in fees and subject to more restrictions. On the screen above, we've got docks at Beacon Bay Homeowner Association. There's 3 inverted T-shaped docks, and just off to the right, there's a work dock. Total 44 boat berthing spaces. They pay a little over $2,900 a year. Those are fees assessed on the square footage of the dock. There are no fees assessed for the boats. Below that, in very close proximity, you've got offshore moorings, which pay higher fees assessed over a larger area, and these are prohibited from subletting and required to add the city as insured. State Lands indicates that they'll be working with coastal and the city. Stakeholders need to be involved to avoid the ongoing deception that's occurring on the part of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne Marie Stenton, Peter Kraus, and then Catherine Warner.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good morning, Chair Hart, Executive Director Hucklebridge, and esteemed commissioners and coastal staff. Thank you for the opportunity to give public comment today. My name is Ann Stenton. I'm a public school teacher and currently the president of the Newport Marin Association. Today, I wanted to express my sincere gratitude for the ongoing support of the Coastal Commission and the State Lands Commission in ensuring continued affordable access to the harbor via the low-cost moorings in Newport Beach. It's my understanding that the Coastal Commission will be working jointly with the State Lands Commission to support the city of Newport Beach in its review of the Tidelands use rates. I also understand that the city has recently shared concerns with the commissions over the longstanding practice of mooring transfers in the harbor. I fear there's been some confusion and possibly some misunderstanding about this practice. I would respectfully urge coastal staff and the State Lands Commission to take into account the importance of allowing permittees to continue to have the right to transfer our permits along with our personally owned mooring tackle. From time to time, this arrangement is what has kept costs low for mooring permittees for a long time. The current permit system, which includes transferability, has also, perhaps more importantly, also resulted in the most diverse group of boaters in all of Newport Harbor, while providing public access at no cost to the city, including the free day use of vacant moorings, just for example, to the public. I also would respectfully urge coastal staff to consider comparable situations where permits to berth boats over public tidelands are transferable, including in places like Morro Bay, Catalina Island, Santa Barbara, State Lands, and Lake Tahoe, among others. It's not an uncommon practice, so I just wanted to mention that. The Newport Marin Association and concerned mooring permittees appreciated the initial meeting we had with coastal staff on May 3rd of this year, but the issue has now evolved from the topic of increasing rates to now include the topic of transferability, and we would like to request staff to offer a greater insight. Thank you for your time.
Peter Kraus, Catherine Warner, and then Wade Womack.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Peter Kraus. I live at 783 Paseo Miramar, which is immediately upslope of the landslide on our street that the developer of 646 to 720 Paseo Miramar has been endlessly grading and stripping of any and all vegetation since June of this year without any permits to do so. We're here because I and my community desperately need your help. We've lost all faith in the city of Los Angeles's ability to protect us. For weeks on end, we begged the city to issue an immediate stop work order for all the illegal grading that was taking place without a coastal development permit, presumably only in reliance on a so-called permit to store equipment geared at removing a mudslide. When we contacted the city, each department would say another had jurisdiction, only for the other department to point back in the other direction with nobody truly caring enough to do anything. And when we reached out to the developer's expediter, Crest Real Estate,
They would just gaslight and tell us that it was simple brush clearance and that what looked like grading was only minor work geared at providing access. Never mind that the grading was massive in slope, cutting into hillsides and disturbing a major landslide. Now that the damage has been done, the city's Bureau of Engineering has come out with a report agreeing with us, stating one, there does not appear to have been a mudslide, and so the mudslide permit was obtained under false pretenses, something we already knew. Two, the illegal work on the active landslide was creating a risk of initiating or triggering further movement of the landslide down slope. And three, a substantial erosion risk had been created, and four, loose piles of dirt left on the site had potential to mobilize down slope onto state park land. We need your help. Please get involved and help the residents of this community stop this illegal development. Thank you.
Next is Catherine Werner, followed by Wade Womack, and then Joe Wilson.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Catherine Werner, and I am here because I live right next to those 6 lots being illegally graded. I did submit a video that I wanted to show you and talk over it so you can see the before, during, and after footage. Do you have that video?
Yeah, our staff is trying to pull that up right now. Give us just a minute. It looks like there may be an issue with the video. Yeah, it looks like the file isn't readable, unfortunately.
There's no way that I can share it from my end, right?
No.
Okay. Well, then it is unfortunate because there were some really good, scary pictures in there. But what I wanted to say is that I live right next to the lots 646 to 720 Paseo Miramar, and it's right adjacent to Topanga State Park within the coastal zone. The owners of these properties have been trying to develop multiple single-family homes on these lots for more than a decade. Nearly 10 years ago, this same developer was found to have engaged in illegal piecemealing, which means submitting different permit applications to different city departments in an attempt to hide the full scope of his proposed development. Today, he is at it again, but this time without any permits. Since there are in the coastal zone, a CDP is required before any development activities can take place. The property owner has not applied for any permits at all. Nonetheless, he is grading, excavating, carving into hillside on an active landslide, stockpiling dirt in piles as high as 13 feet, and removing mature vegetation across several lots abutting Topanga State Park. These activities have been severely destabilizing our hillside. Grading and excavation has harmed the coastal habitat located on these lots and indirectly harmed the habitat and sensitive species within the immediately adjacent state park. We're also concerned that the grading and excavation is purposefully altering the grade and contours of the hillside in an attempt to get the developer a larger building envelope when he finally gets around to applying for permits necessary for this development. Unfortunately, the harm has already been done. At our request, the city finally completed a geotechnical field investigation of the illegal grading and the development taking place. That investigation obviously has determined that the grading, excavation, and the stockpiling were not permitted. Yet, to our knowledge, the city hasn't done anything to make the developer stop the work. They haven't cited him. They haven't asked for any remediation. We are hoping that you, as the Coastal Commission, which has also jurisdiction over this development, will be more help and pursue enforcement action. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next is Wade Womack, followed by Joe Wilson, and then Jennifer Creston.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can I have a slide, please?
We're bringing that up now.
Good morning, Chair Hart and Commissioners. My name is Wade Womack. I'm an avid boater here today to advocate for the average Joe and Jane in Newport, the mooring holder, the underdog, Newport Harbor. I'd like to thank coastal staff for taking a close look at the obvious and blatant price discrimination Newport Harbor. After serious concerns were raised regarding the mooring rate increase, July 9th, the City Council switched gears and voted out of nowhere to transition all 1,200 moorings to a brand new mooring license program that, yes, includes the exact same mooring rate increase and a brand new concept of stripping the permit holders their established right to transfer privately owned mooring tackle. On the slide, you will see the benefits of the existing permit program on the left. For 1, affordable rates. 2, privately owned and maintained tackle. 3, low city expense. 4, public benefit. The city sublets these exact moorings to the general public when they're vacant. Number 5, public benefit. The sublet program with private tackle drives more than 300 grand per year into the titling fund for the benefit of all. Number 6, the existing program has worked well for 100 years. Number 7, there are 50 liveaboard permits. There are no liveaboard licenses allowed per the new code. Please remember, transferability of moorings is a standard practice in California. It is allowed in Newport Beach, Avalon, Morro Bay, and Monterey. Also, docks and slips over tilings can be transferred all over California, including Newport and even state lands jurisdiction in Lake Tahoe. Given the circumstances, simply ask the Coastal Commission to require a CDP to any significant change in the existing mooring program. Thank you for protecting our coast.
Next is Joe Wilson, followed by Jennifer Creston, and then Patricia McPherson.
Good morning. I'm Joe Wilson with Save Our Beaches San Clemente, and I'd like to check in with you regarding OCTA's proposed addition of hard armoring riprap along our beaches to protect their tracks. We know that your commission has been meeting with OCTA in recent months to refine concepts about remediation to protect the tracks here. Our main concern is that OCTA will soon be seeking, if they haven't already, a permit exception or variation that would allow them to expand their rock revetment to a width of 50 feet on our southern beaches without a complete environmental investigation. This approach is anticipated given their perceived urgency to complete this project before this winter's coastal storms. Such an expansion will literally replace the small remaining beach along a 2/3 of a mile stretch with boulders and would, quite seriously, be an environmental disaster. It's our understanding that such a permit variance application may not even reach your full board for discussion, but rather can be approved by executive order. The most important point is this: OCTA should not add more than a minimal amount of rocks to their existing revetment, if any, and should instead provide and maintain sufficient sand replenishment to prevent the ocean from reaching those rocks and eradicating what little beach we have left. We urge all of you to investigate this situation and do what you can to make sure any proposed permit variations come to light and are considered by all of you. Thank you very much.
Our final 3 speakers are Jennifer Creston, Patricia McPherson, and then Lorraine Totino.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, Chair Hart and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Creston, and I'm a retired and low-income mooring holder in Newport Harbor. I participate in sailing races and intend to continue to do so as long as I can afford to keep my boat on its mooring in Newport Harbor. Thank you and coastal staff for expressing concern for mooring users in Newport Harbor. On Tuesday, July 9th, the Newport Beach City Council voted to approve a brand new plan to convert 1,200 mooring permits to a newly contrived mooring license program. While the city's Harbor Commission had presented a highly contested plan to raise mooring rates by as much as 500%, they had never discussed extinguishing mooring permits in favor of mooring licenses. This never before heard of plan was presented to the public as a Plan B staffed recommendation. Plan B was not reviewed by the Harbor Commission in public, and there were no public hearings on the matter other than the July 9th City Council meeting, where Plan B was sprung on us with only one business day notice. This action taken by City Council was lacking due process, and we are grateful and pleased that the state land intervened. I wholeheartedly believe that any city action to raise mooring rates by 500% and to extinguish certain rights and privileges of 1,200 existing mooring permit holders is a wholesale change that will negatively impact the environment and intensity of use of these moorings, which are an important source of coastal access for all Californians. I hope you will agree that an action of this magnitude requires a full analysis and a coastal development permit. Thank you for protecting coastal access for all of us. Thank you.
Next is Patricia McPherson, followed by Lorraine Totino and Walter Lamb. If you are in the Zoom, please raise your hand. Patricia?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Patricia McPherson, Grassroots Coalition. Grassroots Coalition originally prevailed in litigation against Playa Vista and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife when they ignored the Commission's statements to seal unpermitted drains in Ballona Wetlands Ecological Reserve back in 2013. Today, I'm addressing the 2020 CDP 517-0253A1 regarding excavation and removal of drains in Ballona Wetlands. Grassroots Coalition alleges that due to substantially changed circumstances, in part a result of the Commission's beneficial order to cap those drains, and due to new information that the 4-year-old CDP today is inconsistent with the Coastal Act Chapter 3 policies requiring protection to terrestrial habitat and surface and groundwater protection. Grassroots Coalition has provided the alleged violation notice to the Commission and is requesting enforcement to investigate the alleged violation and address the CDP in a manner that will reflect the changed circumstances and new information that will provide the least damaging alternative for sealing these drains. Namely, abandon them in place by simply filling the drains with cement to both seal the drains and alleviate any and all surface damage to the restored habitat. We prevailed in litigation against CDFW in their CEQA litigation. They now have to prepare a new legally adequate EIR. We also have the Department of Water Resources, who has acknowledged the fact that Ballona is a groundwater dependent ecosystem. Corrections need to be made to evaluate the fresh ground and surface water throughout the area. So there are many changes that have taken place since the 2020 CDP approved by this commission, and we would like to revisit all of this. Thank you very much.
Our final speaker is Lorraine Totino, and then Walter Lamb again. If you're in the meeting, please raise your hand.
Hi there, you can see me and hear me.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to all of us. I am another member of Paseo Miramar. A lot of what I've prepared is redundant with all the people who came before me. I think we've shown in numbers to show you how absolutely devastating this is to our community. Everyone is enabled to own property and, create the dream that they want to create, but not without law, permits, and for some reason, these people are just allowed with no city effectiveness to be doing what they want to do. I will read what I have to say, but we really, really, really need your help. And I hope that the numbers that we're showing up and repeatedly saying this show you that this is happening here and it's happening in many, many, many places in our small community, in different places on our hill and also across the way and down in the other neighborhoods. So again, most recently, the developer said he was removing a mudslide. As you've heard, the community reached out to city. There was no help there. What was really going on was they were preparing the lots for future development in a manner that would minimize CEQA review in the future. But for weeks, the work continued, the city pointing the finger to each other and nothing done, just saying it's his, he said, she said. Meanwhile, the developer continued to grade the property without any permits, as you've heard, changing the site's topography unbelievably, incredibly to a vast dirt lot when it was a nature reserve, basically. He also created dirt stockpiles. He cut things that created 13-foot like kind of cuts into the landslide. After we were ignored by the city throughout late June and July, only now has the city's Department of Public Works come out with a report stating that no signs of any mudslide were observed during the site visit. And if the permit did intend to reference the landslide material on site for removal, such activities carry inherent risk for initial movement of landslide mass. This can't be allowed, and we're begging you for your help, and we so appreciate you listening to all of us. Thank you.
Last call for Walter Lamb. Walter Lamb, if you're in the meeting, please raise your hand, or if you're in the room, you can approach the podium. I'm not seeing anything in the Zoom. So that concludes public speakers.
All right. Thanks very much, Vale, and thank you very much to all of the folks both here in person and online that took the time to come and speak with us this morning. Clearly, we are just so appreciative of you and welcome your comments. I'd like to return it now to the commission for any responses within the guidelines identified by council. Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you, Chair. I had maybe a question and then a comment. I guess the first question is I'm wondering if there's been any prior knowledge to the commission about the activities that are happening in Miramar, and if there's an opportunity for enforcement to kind of look into what's happening there in case there's an ability for us to follow up on the complaints that are being made.
I believe Ms. Hagee, if you could come up and just make a couple comments.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. This is a matter that we just recently became aware of. We received correspondence from the homeowners in July, and we have not had an opportunity to fully look into it. Unfortunately, we have one staffer covering this whole area, and he has his hands full with some of the things that you've been reading in the press. We just have had a summer of rampant violations, and we've been trying to juggle resources, and he's unfortunately going on vacation on Thursday. So we're really trying to figure out what we can do to address this. I talked to the attorney here, and I would say on the mic that anybody who has information that would be helpful to us, to please send it to us. We also referred them to the city and thought that the city was going to be able to be of assistance to them. This is in Los Angeles, and we have a joint permit jurisdiction here. But as you heard, apparently the city did not come forth with a lot of assistance. And generally speaking, some of this activity was reportedly, and we have not confirmed this, on State Parks property, but State Parks also does not have an enforcement program, and they don't take enforcement actions. So generally speaking, when we find things that are unpermitted development on State Parks property, we take the lead on that as well, and we coordinate with them, but they don't give us enforcement assistance, unfortunately. So anyway, we will look into this, and we're taking it very seriously. But I would very much encourage anybody who has video or other information that would be of assistance, especially of any ongoing activities, to contact our Long Beach office. Thank you.
Lisa, could you identify exactly where people should email or how they could find the correct contact information?
Because of the vacation situation, it's probably best to send it to, he's going to kill me, Andrew Willis, which is andrew.willis@coastal.ca.gov. But the homeowners do have his information because we've been communicating with them. We told them that we were interested in it, and we were just backed up, and we were struggling to try to find staff to try to address it. So they're aware of it. So please, no crackpots, send anything to Andrew Willis. He'll really kill me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. This is totally typical. We are just so underwater in the enforcement program, and for some reason this summer has been just a complete forest of violations, or alleged violations. So we're trying to address as many as we can as fast as we can.
Great. Well, just wanted to make sure that folks are aware that the commission's taking this seriously and that we're doing our best to follow up with with the resources that we have. And then I guess my second question is related to some of the comments that were made by the representative from the Western States Carpenters Association. And I'm just going to pose this as a question. I think I already know the answer, but I'm just wondering if maybe staff can speak to the authority that we have as it relates to imposing labor standards on projects that come before the commission, and as that relates to the Coastal Act. Yeah.
Right, so as you're all familiar, the Coastal Act does not really include any policies related to labor standards or anything along those lines. So we generally view that as outside of our purview.
Right, and so I just wanted to make sure that that's on the record. I think the representatives left, but you know, if it comes up again, or if there's an opportunity maybe to some of the leads at some of these different labor agencies, just to make sure that they're aware, like, we can't impose labor standards on projects, and where that actually comes into play is with local governments or at the state level. It can't really come through this agency. So just wanted to make sure that for the record that it's clear that we can't do that. So that ends my comments.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Nodoff?
Thank you. A couple points. First, I just wanted to acknowledge the valuable role that Heal the Bay's Beach Report plays. Anybody who goes to the beach takes a look at it. I remember they've been doing it for decades, and the first one that caught my eye was Mother's Beach, of all places. Was not a good place to take your babies to the beach. It looks like it's still on the wall of shame, and I'm sorry to see that, but I'm glad to see you're going to put together a task force to see if you can rectify that. The other thing I just wanted to follow up on was the San Clemente situation. I acknowledge that we also received a lengthy letter from Surfrider Foundation about the process and how commission staff is working with the applicant on that. And I want to make sure that, you know, we're meeting with all parties and all stakeholders equally there, and looking at all the options with equal rigor. I don't know if you have any comments on that, but I see your
Only
head
to say
nodding,
I agree
so-
with you,
Okay.
and we, you know, this will be coming in front of the commission in the future. We're not at the point that we're ready to bring it forward yet, but it will be, and we are doing our due diligence here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escalante, or Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. And Commissioner Cummings kind of took all the questions out of my mouth, so I'll just pipe up really quickly. Again, Heal the Bay, thank you so much for doing such a good work. In this year's report, I know that considering the elements, again, the conditions, the climate element, things start getting more and more challenging for the public as well as organizations as yourselves with even more work to do. So kudos to this good report, and I'm glad to see that Imperial Beach and the situation down in southern San Diego has been addressed correctly in your report. So I do appreciate you guys so much in your work. And lastly, you know, just as a response to our community members from Pacific Palisades, it's up, you know, from the looks of it, it seems very, very worrisome and obviously even dangerous for you. I commend your courage to stand up to that. I hope that you guys do take care of yourselves and make sure that you and your homes are protected. You know, you guys reach out to the proper authorities when cases of this kind of battery and this kind of thing. We'll keep an eye on this for sure. And this, just to add to our enforcement team, they do magician's work across the state. I mean, you can only imagine the type of violations up and down the land and the coast. So we appreciate your patience, and as we move forward and you guys think about the Coastal Commission amongst your neighbors as well, that you guys sort of see what the challenges that this agency faces, and when you guys think about the bigger picture and when you're reaching out to your local electeds, your state representatives, you know, you guys pitch for the Coastal Commission to get as much support from the state, as much funding, and many bodies on the ground to support Lisa Hagee and her team to make sure that the coast is accessible to all. So thank you.
Commissioner Aguirre?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just a quick comment. I also want to echo what has been said about Heal the Bay. I really am thankful for all their work, especially as they've now for many years integrated the data from across the border. That's been very helpful and very important from organizations like Tijuana Waterkeeper. So thank you for that. My question, I don't know if they're still in the room, but has to do with the qPCR testing. Obviously, that is cutting edge technology that the San Diego County was fortunate enough to have, which produces results in 4 to 6 hours instead of 24 to 48 hours. My question is more geared towards is the sense that eventually the rest of the counties in the state will transition to that type of testing, because I can definitely see there's a challenge of harmonizing methodologies between the culture-based testing and the qPCR testing. Obviously, it's a lot more robust, and we want to protect public health as much as possible. So I was just curious about that, if they have a sense about that.
Is it possible to bring one of the folks from Hill Bay up just for, if you could just quickly respond to that? Thank you.
Hi there. Thank you for your question here. So yeah, with the ddPCR results, our current grading methodologies incorporate total coliforms, fecal coliforms, as well as enterococcus. So when we take all of the data and sort of put it into the grading platform, with the ddPCR results, we're only getting enterococcus. So we're unable to grade sort of using our current methodologies. Now we are sort of trying to potentially come up with a different grading methodology that might only incorporate enterococcus, but for now, we do need all three of those sort of fecal indicators in order to grade them. And I think sort of with your question towards the future, I think it's just difficult to be able to compare different sites across the state if some sites are doing the culture-based methods or if some sites are doing the ddPCR. So we're hoping that if all of the sites are doing the same thing, it'll be a little bit easier to compare.
Thank you for that answer. So, but do you have a sense if the state is going to move in that direction towards the ddPCR in your conversations with legislators?
That's not something that I can speak to right now. However, yeah.
I can answer that. I think that most of the
Could identify yourself again, please?
Hi, I'm Dr. Tania Pineda, the Water Quality and Data and Policy Specialist at Hill Bay. So I think that based on the conversations that we have had with different counties, like most of the state will continue doing the culture-based method. First of all, doing the ddPCR, it's fantastic, and I think that it's completely agree with you. There is like very robust data. However, it's very expensive. So I think that's something that we still need to consider. I think if we want to move towards that direction, I think the entire state needs to move in that direction, and everybody can have the same data. For now, only San Diego is the only one that is doing the ddPCR, and we have the county and the city are doing different type of methods. What we are thinking of is starting to compare the day-to-day, like the water quality results weekly, and see what are the, based on the ddPCR and culture-based method, to see if we can identify all these exceedances. We do have a conversion factor that we can apply to the ddPCR. However, this needs to be site-specific. So it's very difficult for us to do that right now. So I think that we are really open to have a major conversation, especially with Mayor Aguirre. So we are like, if we can have that conversation, we can start thinking of how we can migrate and how we can standardize the data across the state. So.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pineda. That was a great answer, and I look forward to working with you more on this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, are there any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I just want to say on my behalf that on the Paseo Miramar situation, I mean, my feeling is that it should be an all hands on deck, not just the commission, not just state parks, not just LA, but everyone. I know that state parks obviously has law enforcement personnel. They're short-staffed like we are, but I know that, you know, I've had experiences, most of us have, where you have a dog on a state park trail that you're alerted. Well, I never have done that, but I think that, I mean, this is a dangerous situation where people are standing in front of tractors and that sort of thing. So I would just hope that with the information we've received today, that we would receive assistance so that all of the relevant agencies would get involved to address what appears to be a very serious situation. So thank you so much for coming to alert us to the situation at Paseo Miramar. Look forward to hearing, hopefully, that getting addressed. All right, so we'll close public comment at this time. I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take a break until, we'll take a, how about a 10-minute break? And we'll return at approximately, how about 10 to 11? Thanks. All right, we'd like to resume the meeting. Okay. For just a little bit.
Yeah, just like a half an hour.
Okay. Okay, we're going to be continuing our meeting here. We're going to move to the Executive Director's Report. I would note, Kate, oh, there it is. Okay, I have it now. You saw there was a little.
Yes, we did.
All right.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning,
Dr.
Commissioners.
Huckleberg?
This is item 6A, the Executive Director's Report, and I do hope that it's posted now. We had a little bit of a kerfuffle getting it, the link posted. It should be posted now. But you will be able to find it on the Commission's website, that published report. I'll spend a few minutes now going over some of the items. So first, I wanted to provide the Commission and the public with some additional detail about the upcoming review of the Commission's, or the California Coastal Management Program by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, or NOAA, Office of Coastal Management. So this evaluation examines the operation and management of the Coastal Commission, the State Coastal Conservancy, and the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, the three legs of the California Management Program, to assess the program's accomplishments and needs, and includes recommendation for program improvements. This year's evaluation will take place August 26th through 30th, and will include a virtual public meeting on Wednesday, August 28th from 12 to 1 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to receive public comments regarding the operation and implementation of the California Coastal Management Program. Written comments are encouraged, and participation at the public meeting is not required for submission of those written comments. Details on the public meeting, including the link where members of the public can register and an email address to submit written comments, are included in the written report. We ask that those interested in attending this public meeting please register by Tuesday, August 27th at 6 p.m. And while advanced registration is requested, registration will remain open until the meeting closes. And any participant in the meeting may provide oral comments after the speakers who registered in advance conclude. So we encourage participation in this process and look forward, hopefully, to seeing some of the members of the public there. Next, on July 18th, staff from the Commission's statewide planning unit and North Coast District participated in a workshop hosted by the Grassroots Institute on LCP updates within Mendocino County for the jurisdictions of Mendocino County and the cities of Fort Bragg and Point Arena. The workshop was well attended by members of the public and local government staff, and Commission staff answered questions related to proposed LCP updates, sea level rise, housing, and projects in Mendocino County. This was one of a series of ongoing regular meetings that Commission staff has participated in, hosted by the Grassroots Institute, a local nonprofit organization that supports and promotes public participation in the LCP update process. Next up, Coastal Cleanup Day is almost here. We're now just over a month away from the 40th anniversary of California Coastal Cleanup Day. So on Saturday, September 21st, Californians from every part of the state will gather at hundreds of cleanup locations to help clean our coastal and inland shorelines, and coming together to form the country's largest annual volunteer event. You can join the fun by visiting coastalcleanupday.org, where you can find your local cleanup site, print posters to help spread the word, and even buy this year's t-shirt. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to our public education staff who are working incredibly hard to pull this event off in fabulous fashion yet again this year.
And when is that, Director Hucklebridge?
That is September 21st. It's a Saturday. And finally, for those of you who are boaters, look out for the August 12th launch of a 6-week boater quiz campaign on Facebook and Instagram by our Boating Clean and Green program. The quiz will challenge recreational boaters to test their clean and green knowledge about preventative practices related to oil, fuel, hazardous waste, sewage, and marine debris. Weekly incentives will include California Clean Boater Kits for randomly selected participants. And Madam Chair, that concludes my Executive Director's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dr. Huckelbridge. Is there any public comment?
Not for this
All
item.
right. Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions or comments? Commissioner Nada?
I was just going to just emphasize the importance of the federal review. That's really the authority under the Federal Coastal Zone Management Act that California enjoys, allows us to have comment on SpaceX or offshore oil drilling, offshore wind. All of that is the commission derives our authority through the federal law. So it's very important, and I think sometimes the communities that are so active here in front of the state commission might not be as aware of the federal review. So I appreciate you highlighting that, and I hope that we can really keep that a spotlight on that on our website, so that people that are used to looking at our website will also get alerted to opportunities to comment at the federal level.
Thank you. That's an excellent suggestion.
All right, thanks, Commissioner. We'll now move on to item, unless there's any commission correspondence. Not seeing any, we'll move on to the ledge report. Ms. Christie. But you're on mute.
Apologies for that. Good morning, Chair Hart and Commissioners. This is your legislative update for the month of August. We're now in the last month of the session, and some bills are already all the way through the process. On July 18th, the governor signed AB 2197, the bill by Assemblymember Addis to reauthorize the Protect Our Coast and Oceans Fund voluntary contribution option on the state tax forms. Donations to the POCO tax checkoff support the Commission's Whaletail Grant Program, along with proceeds from the sale of whaletail license plates. Since its creation in 2013, POCO has generated more than $3.3 million to support ocean education and public access opportunities, with an emphasis on underserved communities and marginalized populations. So it's great. It's a great relief to have POCO approved for the California tax filers for another 8 years. However, we did recently learn that for the first time, POCO has not yet met its minimum threshold of $250,000 to remain on the tax forms, which is cause for concern. Annie Frankel will be providing additional details about the fund's status in a few moments as part of the next agenda item for this year's focused whaletail grants. As you know, the legislature has been in recess since July 3rd and just reconvened on Monday for the final month of the session. So there haven't been many changes to the status of the Commission's priority bills listed on the report, but I do have a few updates for you this morning. The Assembly Appropriations Committee is meeting in Sacramento as we speak. Legislative Manager Sean Drake is monitoring that hearing now, and we anticipate that most of the Senate bills that the Commission is tracking will get referred to the suspense file. After this, however, the Senate Appropriations Committee met on Monday, and most of the Assembly bills listed in the report as pending in that report have been now referred to the suspense file, with 3 exceptions. The first is AB 2939, which the Commission supports, by Assemblymember Rendon. This is the bill that would reduce costs and expand access to local parks and beaches for nonprofit groups providing interpretive services for up to 30 people. That bill is now on the Senate floor and will be eligible for a full floor vote next week. The second is AB 2214 by Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, which would require the OPC to lead an interagency group to identify and recommend statutory changes and a work plan necessary to implement the statewide microplastics strategy. That bill is also on the floor of the Senate. The third is AB 2560, the bill by Assemblymember Alvarez that would clarify the relationship between density bonus law and Coastal Act policies and require local governments to amend their LCPs to reflect the fact that density bonus projects can be approved even if they are not consistent with every standard in the LCP, so long as they don't cause significant harm to coastal resources. That bill will be heard in Senate Appropriations on August 12th and may or may not get a suspense referral on that day. And finally, you may have heard about a proposed energy package that began to circulate last week. Shortly before the end of summer recess, the Senate announced that it had assembled a package of 5 energy-related bills called the California-Made Clean Energy Package, as they are designated to create living wage jobs while streamlining a variety of projects associated with clean energy generation, transmission, and associated infrastructure. None of these proposals have been officially introduced as bills yet, but when and if they are, Commission staff will work with your legislative subcommittee on any necessary analysis and response. Madam Chair, that concludes this month's legislative report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Christie. Is there any public comment on the ledge report?
No speakers.
All right, returning it to the commission. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, the Public Education Grant Program, and I'm sure we have a presentation on that.
Yes, Amy Frankel will be providing the staff presentation.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, I do have a slideshow.
We're bringing it up.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. The staff report from the Public Education Program.
We can't hear you, Amy.
The staff report from the Public Education
Nope.
Program is
Just
for
a
this year's
sec.
targeted grants. Is that working now?
Annie,
Yes.
we can't hear you. So you need to talk louder, turn you up or something.
All right. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I apologize. The staff report from the Public Education Program is for this year's targeted grants. The slideshow showing some photos from the most recent year's projects. These grants are made possible by revenue from the Whale Tail Specialty License Plate and from voluntary donations to the Protect Our Coast and Oceans Fund on the California State Tax Return. We also have funds available from a general fund budget allocation made in fiscal year 2021. Targeted grants are non-competitive grants based on staff recommendations for high priority projects that are linked to the Commission's existing programs and goals. We expect to come before you at the February meeting for your approval of the grant recipients from our next competitive grant round, which will open up soon. Today, there are 6 projects being recommended for funding. The first is the Kids Ocean Day Adopt a Beach School program, which is divided into 7 different grants serving thousands of children from lower income schools all around the state. Most of the slides are from that, and it looks like it's no longer advancing. So if the meeting managers could help by slowly advancing, that would be great. So this annual program, Kids Ocean Day, engages children in learning about marine life, the ocean, and how to prevent ocean pollution, including classroom presentations and a field trip to play at the beach, participate in a beach cleanup, and create an aerial art display to spell out an ocean conservation message. And in a few slides, you'll see the aerial art from this past spring. The second targeted grant is for Justice Outside to offer assistance to our Whale Tail grant recipients as they continue work toward increasing equity and inclusion in their environmental education efforts. We've granted funds for this project since 2017. Justice Outside will conduct a brief survey of the grantees' interests and needs and offer a series of trainings based on the responses. Stipends will be available to the grantees who participate. Next are Heal the Bay and I Live a Clean San Diego's Adopt a Beach programs. Adopt a Beach is one of the foundations of our public education program, and it's specifically mentioned in the Coastal Act. These 2 Adopt a Beach programs are large, and they both include innovative components in their programming. Next is a small grant to Guided Discoveries to purchase a beach wheelchair to help increase coastal access for the 12,000 to 15,000 students they serve every year at Catalina Island Marine Institute. specifically to make sure that all students who want to snorkel are able to get in the water. We're recommending funding for the Tide Center for supporting community-based habitat restoration and education, including an environmental leadership internship program and statewide public education and outreach activities such as Coastal Cleanup Day and contests for students and adults. Besides those 6 projects, we are also requesting that the commissioners approve setting aside a $50,000 reserve. If staff identifies a need for that money later in this fiscal year, we'll return to the commission for approval. If that doesn't happen, it will revert to the fund and be available for future grants. Also, staff's requesting that if any of these funds end up not being needed by the designated grantees, the extra money can be added to the reserve or the competitive grants budget to be allocated at a future meeting. Finally, staff is requesting that if any of these grants end up being slightly smaller than the grantees need, we have permission to allocate some of the reserve so their projects can be completed successfully, as long as the reserve funds are not otherwise needed. In closing, I'd like to note that as important as these grants are, we can't take the funding that supports them for granted. We are currently spending down a one-time budget augmentation from the fiscal year 2021 budget, but once that's finished, which must happen next year, we will once again be completely reliant on the whale tail license plate and the Protect Our Coast and Oceans Fund to continue these grants. And as Sarah Christie mentioned, this year, for the first time, we have not yet met the minimum threshold for donations to the Protect Our Coast and Oceans Fund on 2023 California tax forms. October 15th is the deadline for late filers, so if we have any late filers listening to this, please consider a tax-deductible donation to the fund when you file. It's found in the voluntary contribution section of your state tax form, specifically box 424. With your help, we can meet the cutoff and continue this important work. So thank you very much. The motion and resolution are on page 2 of the staff report.
Thank you so much, Ms. Frankel. All right, I'm going to ask if there are any members of the public that would like to speak on this item.
Yes, we have one person signed up, Stephanie Gebhardt-Rath of Heal the Bay.
All right, Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. I would just like to take a moment. My name is Stephanie Gebhardt-Rath. I would like, from Heal the Bay, I'd like to take this moment to say hello to the chair, to vice chair, commissioners, and staff. Thank you, Annie, for your kind words. Heal the Bay is honored to have been receiving this whale tail grant funding for over 3 decades. Over this time, we've mobilized over 400,000 volunteers and have removed over 2 million pounds of trash and counting from Los Angeles County beaches, waterways, parks, and neighborhoods. We're gearing up for our 35th anniversary of Coastal Cleanup Day in LA County, and we expect over 10,000 people to join us on September 21st. And we'd especially like to take this time to thank, the commission and especially your education team for being a beacon of guidance throughout the years. We could not do this work without your help. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. All right, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Kunkel, followed by Commissioner Turnbull-Sanders.
Thank you, Chair Hart. First, I want to celebrate the Whale Tail Fund. Always exciting to see these new projects. I wanted to give an update and let everyone know that the State Controller's Office is able to accept private donations from citizens to support state agencies. This is for any state agencies, but of course, including on behalf of the Coastal Commission's Whale Tail Fund. So the information is already posted on the website, I believe, as of this morning, checkthecoast.org, but I will spit it off now. If you have a pen, you can write this down. And of course, this meeting is recorded as well, so you can come back to this. So you're gonna send the check to the State Controller's Office, the Office of State Controller Malia Cohen, Attention Legal Office at 300 Capitol Mall in Sacramento, 95814. And it's very important that the check clearly states the fund that you want to deposit your donation to. So that is Protect Our Coast and Oceans Voluntary Tax Contribution Fund number 8086. I know that's a mouthful. Again, the information is on the checkthecoast.org website. And I'm also happy to answer any questions if people are interested in donating. And I think there's also an option to do an electronic funds transfer. You can reach out to me if you have questions about that. And my email address is kkunkel, Kunkel, @sco.ca.org. That's all I got, Chair Hart. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner, and thank you so much for your work on this to make this another option. If I could, Commissioners, just ask Annie, would this, or Council, would this go towards satisfying the minimum to maintain the fund if it's contributed directly, or does it have to be through the tax checkoff?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. We'd have to research it.
Okay, I think that would be valuable to know because it's important.
It's possible that Ms. Christie knows
Yes,
the
she
answer to that
did
question.
indicate
And can we find out how much we're short?
those two things. Thank you.
We're short about $42,000. Annie, unless am I stepping on you, you can feel free to respond. At this, we just got the franchise tax board numbers this week for July, and we're about $42,000 short at this point. And the way that Commissioner Kunkel described the contribution specifically to that fund, it is a tax deductible contribution to the tax checkoff fund. So yes, it would count towards our limit. It's not that you can only contribute through the tax checkoff, the California tax forms. That just makes it easier. But any funds contributed, any money contributed to that fund is tax deductible, and it counts toward our $250,000 limit.
Thank you. What's the deadline? Thank you. Is there a deadline? Commissioner Nothoff is wondering. Do you know, Sarah?
Well, the franchise tax board is supposed to make a determination on September 1st of whether they think the fund is going to raise enough money to remain on the forms. But obviously, the late filing deadline is October 15th. So while it would be ideal to get to 250,000 by September 1st, if we get to 250,000 by October 15th, we still have the ability to qualify for the forms for next year.
Okay, thank you very much for that information, and definitely we should have the information from Commissioner Kunkel on the website if we don't already, because it is a little complicated, but and the more we can simplify it, the better. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders? Yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders, before you speak, it turns out we do have a member of the public that's here in person that would like to speak on this item. If they could come forward.
We have Mark Chitzilo.
Thank you. You just state your name and you'll have 3 minutes. Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Frankel, for the presentation. Really appreciate this. This is one of the presentations I look forward to most with our public education program. I just had a couple questions about the grant reserves, and I know we're trying to keep about 50,000 in grant reserves for cost overruns for certain projects that are really demonstrating impact, or if there are last-minute requests. Can you tell us a little bit more about how those funds are distributed? I know it's a small amount, but just what goes into the decision to distribute those funds throughout the year?
Sure. Most often they revert to the competitive grants fund and they just go back into that pot. That's usually what happens. Occasionally there's a project that comes up that is a priority for the commission and for our education program, and then we would bring it to you. Or if one of these targeted grants that you are voting on today are a little bit below what they need to accomplish their goals, we might decide to augment them. Most often, it just rolls into what we put into our competitive round.
Okay, thank you. So most of the time, just a rollover. Then the other question I had was about the consulting group that's used to help with the grants. Just wondering, how is that going in comparison to before we had the consulting group hired on, and are there areas of improvement, or just wanted to get your reflections on that? Because it's a significant investment, but just trying to see if it's worthwhile.
We survey our participants on their experiences, and I just put out the survey for this summer's trainings. So far, they're coming back really positive. We find that a number of our grantees really appreciate that extra training. Sometimes, you know, they get to bring in staff who maybe don't have those opportunities for the training. We do provide a stipend to the organization that participates. So this past summer, we had trainings on equitable curriculum development, equitable board development, recruitment and retention, which is a really interesting topic for a lot of our nonprofits. Training on evaluation. So, you know, we think about it every year, and if our funds are less, it's possible we may or may not be able to support this project every year. But it does, the feedback we get is that it's really appreciated. It really helps our grantees to improve the work that they are always focusing on.
And have we considered partnering with any technical assistance providers or capacity building providers in the nonprofit sector or in the academic arenas to help support that?
It's something that would definitely be something to look into. I have not done that at this point.
Okay. The reason I ask is I know there are a number of organizations like the Liberty Hill Foundation that do a lot of that technical assistance and capacity building. If we want more points of entry for organizations that may be developing in the area of environmental protection, coastal protection, and then academic institutions often also have those resources. So it may be a way to kind of supplement what we already have. The other question I had was about the wheelchair allocation. I think it was about $3,000 or something like that in the report. And just thinking about how communities of color are disproportionately impacted by various disabilities, and thinking about how we allocate those wheelchairs. I was looking at the map last night and looking at how few opportunities there are. It's like one wheelchair here, one wheelchair there, which is amazing that it even exists. But just thinking about, is there a way for staff to look at maybe outside organizations or philanthropic organizations that address the needs of differently abled residents to be able to kind of get those numbers up? Because I think also the rentals are only for 2 hours. So if you go to the beach with someone and you have like a family beach day and then can only keep it for 2 hours, it's like you're kind of running the risk of walking back and having that same wheelchair maybe available. So just thinking about, are there other philanthropic organizations or foundations that might be interested in increasing that budget up from $3,000 a year? So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And we would love to get more ideas of organizations that would like to host a wheelchair. The way, so we have a webpage that is an easy way to find out where there are free places along the coast to borrow wheelchairs. Some of those were funded by us. Many of them were not funded by us. There are several different sources of funding, state, private, that are helping to purchase these wheelchairs. And each host has their own rules. So some of them may not be 2 hours. Like, it depends on the organization that is making available the wheelchair. So, but I really appreciate that. And if you have other thoughts that you would like to follow up, we are really interested in increasing that, because it's a really wonderful resource. And we get a lot of feedback as well on that webpage on how California is kind of ahead of a lot of other states in trying to get the word out and make available these resources so that everybody can enjoy the beach.
Thank you.
All right, not seeing any other commissioners that have a comment. I just want to say, I just want to thank you so much, Ms. Frankel, for all your work on this. It's just such an incredible program, and the grants are so critically important. I think it's absolutely essential that we make sure that the program gets going. So anything we can do to get the word out to the public that, you know, we have this shortfall, that it's not significant if we get a lot of donations, but it's really important. With regard to the beach wheelchairs, I know that there are regional parks departments, including my own from Sonoma County, that provide beach wheelchairs. And I was thinking, though, that from the commission's perspective, it might be something to consider as we approve various hotel and motel projects along the coast, that we include a requirement to provide beach wheelchairs as part of our access requirements, because so many people there's just no way, as you mentioned, Commissioner Turnbull Sanders, it's just impossible to access the beach. It's so important. And I know here, LA County, I'm sure they probably have a Regional Parks Foundation. So there are all these nonprofit partners that I think we really need to encourage to provide beach wheelchairs as part of their grant programs too. But thank you so much for everything you do. So we need a motion on this item. All right, Commissioner Bochco.
Oh, okay. I move that the commission approve the funding allocation set forth in the staff recommendation. I'm asking for a yes vote.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We have a couple commissioners that are online, so we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Aguirre.
Yes.
Aguirre, yes. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Cummings.
Aye.
Cummings, yes. Commissioner Escalante.
Yes.
Escalante, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nodoff.
Aye.
Nodoff, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Chair Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. The vote is unanimous.
All right, thank you so much, Vanessa. Now we'll move on to the informational briefing on Hollister Ranch Coastal Access Program.
And Linda Laughlin will be providing this update.
Hi,
Good
Linda.
morning. Good morning.
Congratulations to you on your new trail, beach access.
Yes, thank you very much. It's very exciting. But here we are. Today's briefing is on the Hollister Ranch Coastal Access Program in Santa Barbara County. Just as a reminder, the planning work that we're doing for the Hollister Ranch Coastal Access Program.
Linda, can you speak a little louder? There's something about, we're having a hard time hearing on Zoom, so just.
Okay.
Thank you.
The planning work that we're doing for the Hollister Ranch Coastal Access Program, is that volume okay?
That's better, thank you.
Okay. It is required by AB 1680 from 2019, which requires that there be an updated contemporary public access program provided for land-based access into the Hollister Ranch beaches be prepared. The AB 1680 designated four state agencies to do this work, and they're comprised of Coastal Commission, Coastal Conservancy, State Lands Commission, and California State Parks. So that's just the reminder of why are we doing this planning program. We gave you an update a year ago, and since then I want to just report that we have been making steady progress in the planning for this HR CAP, which is, again, Hollister Ranch Coastal Access Program. We recently hired 2 consultants to prepare specific projects for us. The state agency team, we hired 1 consultant to prepare a tribal and cultural resource assessment, and a second one to prepare the environmental impact report. The money for these 2 consultants comes from a $10 million general fund appropriation to the Coastal Conservancy for public access at the Hollister Ranch beaches. As for the cultural and tribal resource assessment, the consulting firm Applied Earthworks conducted this assessment in May. The consultants team did a pedestrian survey of the beach area, which means that they did not do any subsurface activity, and they were accompanied by members from the 4 Native American tribes who responded to a 2022 invitation through the HR CAP planning process. And these 4 tribes now comprise our working group, the Chumash Working Group. The results of the study were submitted to the Coastal Conservancy in June and have been reviewed by the state agency team members. The results of the study are confidential, so we're not able to publicly share them. However, through the upcoming EIR planning process, the extent of any known sensitive resources will be considered to ensure protection of those resources. As for the preparation of the EIR, the State Lands Commission is overseeing the preparation on behalf of the Coastal Commission. We are the CEQA lead agency for this project. The State Lands Commission hired the consulting firm Ascent, and the firm has initiated the first steps in the planning process. Their contract is for a 3-year period running into early 2027. As for the Native American tribal consultation, again, as the commission is the lead for the CEQA process, we are initiating the tribal consultation as required by AB 52. And as far as we've already previously contacted the Chumash tribes listed with the Native American Heritage Commission, as I said, those 4 tribes that make up the current working group. Through the consultation process, we'll learn whether those 4 tribes wish to continue consultation and whether or not there are additional tribes that wish to participate. I would like to note that we did receive 1 letter, a comment letter, and it is posted from the Northern Chumash Tribal Council. In their letter, they ask for access into Hollister Ranch. As the ranch is private property, the state has no authority to grant permission to the tribe or anyone else into the ranch, and we will redirect the tribe to send their request to the Hollister Ranch Owners Association. But also that in the upcoming tribal consultation process through the AB 52 that I just mentioned, this tribal council will have an opportunity to participate and express their views or concerns via the HR CAP planning process. The next steps is for the consultant team Ascent, preparing the EIR. They will be holding public meetings later this year, and at those meetings they will inform the public about the work program and also will seek public input. And that's my comment for now. I'm, of course, ready to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. I'll ask if there's any public comment on this item.
Yes, 1 speaker, Mark Titilo.
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. I'm Mark Chatillo. I'm an attorney. I represent a coalition of groups that have been involved in the Pappas litigation and Hollister Ranch access, the Gaviota Coastal Trail Alliance. And I'll note that we do have representatives of Hollister Ranch here in the audience with us today. I wanted to speak and give you a little bit of background on the matters associated with Hollister. First and most importantly is that we're talking about the state tidelands that the public is not able to access as a result of Hollister's conduct. These are public lands. These are not private lands that we're seeking to use. The public is just trying to get to the state tidelands that are part of the sovereign part of and lands of California. The history of access denied at Hollister Ranch has both a formal and informal component. Formally, the CC&Rs of Hollister Ranch have disallowed any cooperation with assistance to the public to gain access to these state tidelands and security details. Informally, there's been a history of vandalism of the facilities that are necessary for the public to gain boat access and intimidation in the waves. And we've seen the story, and the result really has been a privatization of these public lands that are offshore Hollister Ranch. We recognize a few things: the sensitivity of the ecology of this area and the need for management of all of the uses of these state tidelands. We recognize and honor the interests of the First Peoples of this area and recognize that their title has been usurped. Their title to these unceded lands has been taken, and they have a very significant voice in this process. And thirdly, we want to recognize the hard work of the Commission staff, the Coastal Conservancy and State Lands Commission, to bring all these issues together, as well as the attorneys at the Attorney General's office that have been partners with us in this process. There's three main pieces I want to talk about. The HR cap you heard from Linda is an important one, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with staff to make that as effective as possible. Secondly, the PAPAS action that we're currently engaged in to try and enforce the 1982 easements that are critical to at least getting to a third of the property. And I want to note that part of the claims in that action by Hollister are for inverse condemnation, and the privatization of these public lands is an offsetting claim that needs to be brought forward.
It was my intention to give you 3 minutes, so could he have 1 more minute, please? And we'll give generally public commenters 3 minutes today, because we don't have too heavy of a calendar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The third prong.
You'll have 1 more minute. Just let them reset the timer. Excuse me. All right, continue, please. Thank you.
The third prong are enforcement proceedings. Hollister has engaged in practices which contravene the Coastal Act, including sanctioning the driving on the state tidelands and the beach. That program has been stopped, but we also detected in preparation for the PAPAS litigation that there were a number of unpermitted coastal access and coastal recreational structures that Hollister Ranch members were enjoying that did not have the benefit of the permits from Santa Barbara or from the Coastal Commission. Each of these pieces authorizes and justifies access, and we'd encourage your commission to stand strong and to use all of these opportunities to gain public access to the state tidelands that are so important. Our immediate interim goals are using the PAPAS litigation, ideally as settlement or otherwise, to gain interim access, and working with the enforcement staff. I know that's an agenda there as well. So, Madam Chair, we very much value and appreciate the partnership that the community has had with the coastal staff and all the agencies that are working on this, and we appreciate your staunch efforts in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming in person. I know it's an effort to do that, and very much appreciate it.
Thank you for that. You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
All right, are there any other commenters on this item?
No other speakers.
All right, this was informational, I believe, so no motion is required. Do commissioners have any comments? Commissioner Harmon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, we knew this would be a long process. It has been a long process and is proving to live up to that expectation, but I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the work that our staff and all the stakeholders are putting into this effort. It's clear to me, as it has been every time we've gotten an update or discussed this matter, the care and commitment to access to our coast that our staff is putting into this, and it's been a long time coming, and I very much appreciate the continued commitment to it. And I know I speak for very many people, particularly in Santa Barbara County, in North Santa Barbara County as well, that there's a lot of gratitude for the work that's being put into this process. So thank you.
Thanks so much. Any other comments? All right, thank you very much. We'll then move on to item 7A, the administrative calendar. Ask if there are any speakers on item 7A.
No speakers.
All right, do any commissioners wish to remove 7A? All right, seeing none, the administrative calendar is approved, and we'll move on to the consent calendar, which has 2 items on it. Do we have a staff presentation?
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair
Schwein.
Hart. So the next item 8 is the consent calendar for all units and districts on the agenda today. There's 2 items from Orange County. There is an addendum on item 8A with revised plans, just to make a minor change to the windows on that project. But conditions are acceptable to the applicants. There's no known opposition, so staff's recommending those matters be approved on the consent calendar.
All right, are there any ex partes? All right, are there any members of the public who wish to speak?
No.
All right.
Move consent?
All right, we have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
Lowenberg was the second.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Who was the seconder?
I believe it was Commissioner Harmon. Bochco and Harmon.
Got it. Okay. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Escalante.
Yes.
Escalante, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nodoff.
Aye.
Nodoff, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Aguirre.
Yes.
Aguirre, yes. Chair Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. The vote is unanimous.
All right, now we'll move on to item 9, items removed from the regular calendar. Mr. Schwein?
Thank you. So today we have 1 item from Marin and Sonoma counties, 1 from San Luis Obispo County, and 2 items from Orange County that we're recommending be moved to consent. Those are items 12A, that's the Caltrans Middle Mile Broadband Network Project. Item 14A, the Joslin Redesignation LCP amendment from San Luis Obispo. Item 18A, the LCP amendment from the City of Newport Beach. And item 20D, the application, the Maddocks mobile home project. I do want to note there is correspondence and an addendum on 18A, which is the Newport Beach LCP amendment, that involves a change to a small parcel that's designated commercial neighborhood to residential uses. The correspondence from Mr. Jim Mosier identified some minor corrections needed to the report, but also raised concerns about the proposed conversion based on his concerns about the loss of commercial land uses in the coastal zone. Staff fully responded to these comments in the addendum, and there were no changes to our staff recommendation. However, I do want to acknowledge that the issue that was raised by Mr. Mosier is one that Commission staff certainly shared. And like Mr. Mosier, we thought there must be a way to preserve commercial opportunities on this site, as well as provide for some residential uses in perhaps a mixed-use configuration. But as outlined in the staff report, the city demonstrated that redevelopment of the lot with both commercial and residential wouldn't be feasible, and to still meet parking and other requirements for new development. So the city also showed us that commercial opportunities in the area had actually increased, and there was plenty of low-cost visitor serving present to support beach visitors. So this, in combination with the fact that the site was previously designated for residential uses and the proposed use would allow for an increase in needed residential units, that convinced staff that this was the proper, the right choice. So we're continuing to recommend that that matter and the others be moved to the consent calendar and approved per the staff recommendations.
Thank you. Any ex partes? Do we have members of the public that would like to speak on the items that have been removed from the regular calendar to the consent calendar?
No, we just have those for 12A and 18A available for questions.
All right. In that case, bring it back to the commission for any comments or motion.
I'll move consent.
All right, Commissioner Bochco and
And I just had a quick comment.
Oh, you have a comment. Okay.
I just wanted, we move these things on consent, and I just wanted to identify that a couple of these items are about multifamily residential in the coastal zone. They don't get a full airing, but that's one of the reasons we're trying to move these things forward on to increase lower income housing opportunities in coastal zone. Thank you.
Thanks so much for pointing that out. Commissioner Nodoff, you're absolutely right. We expedite these, and sometimes they don't get the notice that they should. So thank you so much for that. All right, we need a roll call vote, please. We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Escalante.
Yes.
Escalante, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nodoff.
Aye.
Nodoff, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Aguirre.
Yes.
Aguirre, yes. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Chair Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. The vote is unanimous.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn to item 10, Deputy Director's Report from North Central Coast.
Yes, thank you,
Hey,
Chair
Mr.
Hart.
Carl.
Thank you. Welcome. There are two items today in this DD's report. One is a waiver for some yard improvements in Seadrift in Marin County. That's pretty straightforward, and we continue to recommend that waiver. However, the second item is an amendment where we learned some new information about it yesterday, and that new information affects our recommendation. So we're pulling that from the DD's report, and we're not going to report it today, and that's amendment number A2 PAC 20-0073-A1. We're going to need to circle back with the applicant on the particulars of the project. And so that'll come back to you another day. So at this point, the question is whether 4 more commissioners object to the waiver only. And if not, then the commission will concur on it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Carl. Any speakers?
No speakers.
All right, do 3 or more commissioners?
Was that a waiver at Seadrift in Stinson
No,
Beach?
that was the waivers
The
for
waiver.
Seadrift.
Yeah, I need to recuse myself.
Okay. Normally, if you're going, just for future, yeah. All right, so we have, do we have any objections to any items on the Deputy Director's report? There's only going to be one, the waiver, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. Seeing no objection, the commission concurs. Commissioner Lowenberg can come back. All right, and now we're going to move on to item 14A. Is 14A on? It's going to be one of those things where you'll have to help me because I'm a little, there's so many on consent, but I see 14A is on consent.
No, it actually, we get down to item number 13 due to the postponements. And
oh, we're already down to 13. Okay.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. So
And
13 will be the DDR for the Central Coast.
that's correct. And in that report, we're reporting 1 waiver, 1 extension, and 2 emergency coastal permits. And I'd note that we did receive an objection on the extension, with the objector essentially asserting a number of reasons why they disagree with allowing the project in the first place. And so putting it another way, the commenter is essentially arguing that the coastal permit shouldn't have been approved. And so while the commenter has that opinion, the time for that observation is past, as the commission already approved the coastal permit. And the various issues that are raised by the commenter are all the same issues that were before the commission at that time. And so the required legal question for allowing an extension is whether there are any change in circumstances since that time that might alter that prior commission conclusion. And staff doesn't believe that there are any in this case. And so we continue to recommend the extension be allowed despite the objection. Past that, only the waiver in this DD's report needs concurrence, and we're not aware of any objections or controversy on that matter. And so the question is whether 4 or more commissioners object. And if not, again, the commission will concur for both the waiver and the extension.
Thanks, Mr. Carl. Any speakers?
No speakers.
All right, returning to the commission, ask if 3 or more commissioners object to an item on the DDR report for the Central Coast. Seeing none, the commission concurs. Item 4, what's next? Let me throw it back to you. 14A is on consent.
I think that does take us down to item 17, which is the
okay.
Deputy Director's report for Orange County.
All right. Who will be doing that?
All right, and so this report contains 4 waivers for routine projects in San Clemente and Seal Beach and 1 CDP extension. Just for the record, there was also 1 immaterial amendment from OC Parks in the DDR, but the county decided to withdraw that application, so there will be no action on that item. But there's no known opposition to the remainder of the items, and we're asking whether 3 or more commissioners object to the waivers in the report.
Thank you. Are there any speakers?
No speakers.
Do 3 or more commissioners object to adoption of the DDR report? All right, in that case, the commission concurs, and that takes us, I believe, to is 20B. Nope, that's withdrawn. Okay, so
No, 20, it does
not-
take us down to item 20B.
Oh, 12B was withdrawn. Thanks. Right, so where are we?
That does take us down to item 20B, which is application 523-682, Diab application from Seal Beach.
Let me ask you, how long will the hearing on this take?
Well, this is a disputed recommendation.
Mhm.
The applicant is opposing the staff recommendation.
So how long would you anticipate the hearing would be?
20, 30 minutes.
Okay, I think we'll move forward with that. Let's move forward with item 20B, and then we'll have lunch after.
All right, sounds good. And Fernie Tsai with the Long Beach office is going to do the initial staff recommendation report. Go ahead, Fernie.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item W20B is an application by Emil Diab for the conversion of a 2-unit, 2-story building with a detached 2-car garage into a 2-story single-family residence with an attached 2-car garage located at 1209 East Seal Way in the city of Seal Beach. As shown on the screen, the site is located between the First Public Road and the sea on a lot adjacent to and inland of the beachfront public lateral access way. The project site is sited within an existing urban residential area located southeast of the Seal Beach Pier and up close to the Anaheim Bay Jetty. The city does not have a certified local coastal program. Therefore, the standard of review for this proposed development is the Chapter 3 policies of the Coastal Act. There is an update to this project that Mr. Schwing will cover at the end of the presentation, just to let you know. Next slide, please. The proposed project would replace a duplex with a single-family dwelling, resulting in a loss of 1 housing unit. On the screen above are the first and second floor plans for the existing 2-unit building. Next slide, please. The slide above shows the proposed site plan, first floor plan, and second floor plan of the proposed single-family residential development. Next slide, please. Coastal Act sections 30250 and 30253 encourage the concentration of new development in already developed areas that can accommodate it to avoid cumulative impacts to coastal resources and minimize vehicle miles traveled. The city of Seal Beach, which does not have a certified LCP, designates the site and the general vicinity as residential high density in its zoning code, with a maximum density of 25 dwelling units per acre, or 1 unit per 2,178 square feet of lot size. The subject property has a lot size of 2,700 square feet, which would only allow 1 unit on a property based on the strict reading of the city zoning code. And thus the existing 2-unit building, is non-conforming. While the zone is described as high density, in practice, most of the sites along this public lateral access way, if redeveloped, would be limited to a single-family residence based on the city's uncertified zoning code. Thus, strict application of the uncertified zoning code in this case would not only result in a reduction of density at this site, but if used as precedent, could reduce the concentration of development in this developed area, potentially resulting in a loss of nearly 120 residential units in an approximately 4-block stretch as shown on this slide. Thus, the applicant's proposal to convert the existing duplex to a single-family residence is not consistent with the development policies of the Coastal Act. California is currently experiencing a severe housing supply shortage, and as a result of this housing shortage, the legislature has enacted numerous laws, including SB 10 and AB 2097, in recent years to prevent the net loss of residential density and to encourage infill residential development in developed areas. SB 330, known as the Housing Crisis Act, approved and signed into law in 2019, prohibits cities like Seal Beach from approving housing development projects that would demolish more units than they would create. Here, in 2023, the city approved this project with such a reduction, which is clearly inconsistent with that law. Maintaining 2 units at the site aligns with coastal act requirements to concentrate new development in existing developed areas, able to accommodate it and minimize vehicle miles traveled. Staff would note that applicant asserts that they are unable to get approval from the city for redevelopment of the site with 2 units because of the local density law. However, as outlined in section 66300.6 of the Housing Crisis Act, local zoning rules that prevent retention of existing density are specifically overridden. Thus, in this case, the city clearly must approve two units on the project site. Therefore, special condition 1 is imposed, which requires the applicant to submit revised plans that maintain dwelling units on 2 dwelling units on the site. Excuse me. Special condition number 2 is also imposed, which requires retention of 2 units on the site for the life of the development. Next slide, please. As proposed, the project includes structural elements on the first and second floors that extend out close to the seaward property line, shown in green on the slide above, that fronts the public lateral access way. These structures have minimal setbacks that would make it impossible for the owner of the private residence to conduct normal maintenance activities, typically necessary to maintain a residence without encroaching onto the public lateral access way. In order to ensure that applicants can conduct such routine maintenance or implement adaptive measures to the structure from within the private property lines without encroaching into the public lateral access way, special condition 1 has been imposed, which requires the applicant to submit revised plans incorporating a minimum structural setback of 5 feet from the seaward property line. Next slide, please. Besides these conditions, several others have been imposed to address other coastal resource and hazard concerns. They include a waiver of rights to future shoreline protective devices, assumption of risk, future development requiring a CDP, proper storage of construction materials, mechanized equipment, BMPs, and removal of construction debris during construction, native low water use landscaping, and a deed restriction making property owners aware of the subject conditions. As conditioned, the project is consistent with the development and land use, public access and recreation, hazards and biological resources, and water quality policies of the Coastal Act. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission approve CDP number 5-230682 with these 8 special conditions. The motions and resolutions are on page 5 of the staff report. This concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available for questions.
And Chair Hart, I do have some additional comments.
Great.
Just to cover some of the changes that we are recommending to our recommendation. So as Mr. Sai outlined in our written staff recommendation, the requirement is for the applicant to replace the proposed single family with essentially a duplex. And since just this morning, we had some communications with the city of Seal Beach about that requirement. And while staff continues to recommend that a duplex be provided here in order to replicate the existing density situation on the property, the city has stated that they don't see a way that they can approve a duplex, but they could approve an accessory dwelling unit. So given that circumstance and not wanting to put the applicant in a situation where they can't return to the local government and get an approved project, we are making some changes to our special conditions 1 and 2 to allow for an ADU. The conditions still encourage provision of the full duplex if there's some way the city can find to approve that. And we'll continue to work with them to see if we can achieve that. But if the city is not able to do that, the conditions would allow for an accessory dwelling unit. So if we could bring up the slides again and go to the slide after Fernie's last one. I can describe the changes to the special conditions. So next slide. So for special condition 1, we would make some revisions to item number 1 there so that it reads, the structure shall contain 2 dwelling units. We would add a second provision that says, pursuant to special condition number 2, if a duplex is proposed, the units shall be approximately of equal size. If a single-family residence with an accessory dwelling unit is proposed, the ADU shall have a minimum size of 1,000 square feet. And then there's one more small change to item 3 there, so that it would read, provide adequate parking spaces on site for each of the primary residential units proposed for any development on the site, and then no further change there. And the reason for that change is to allow for, right now with a duplex, we're asking that they provide the 4 parking spaces on site. But if they were to change this to an ADU, that additional parking wouldn't be required. So that's just a minor change to the condition to allow for that. And then on special condition 2, if we could bring the next slide up. So here we would be changing the first provision A to read, the development approved by Coastal Development Permit 523-682 is for the construction of 2 approximately equal-sized residential units or retention of 2 fully sized residential units on site. Part B would be if 2 approximately sized residential units are not approvable by the city, then a single-family residence and an accessory dwelling unit with a minimum size of 1,000 square feet is required. And that's, that concludes the changes to the conditions.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sure that, I know I will have some questions, but let me proceed with the hearing and then we'll return to the commission. So let me ask if there are any ex partes. All right, are there public speakers? Do we have the applicant?
Yes, we have 2 speakers, both in person, Jeff Parkhurst and Emil Diab.
And is one of these the applicant? All right, so if they could step up and ask how much time they'd like. Sure, step up and state your name, and please let me know how much time you'd like to present your comments.
Well, we've just been hit by some new information as well with
Okay, so you weren't aware of the ADU?
No, we were not aware of that.
Okay, let me just take a second, if I could, and ask whether whether it would make sense for staff to discuss this with the applicant prior to it coming back to the commission. Do you see a benefit of that, Mr. Swing, or just it sounds like they were unaware of the recommendation?
Yeah, this was a last minute change that based on discussions we had with the city this morning. So it is pretty new. So we could either proceed with the hearing, we could take a break and discuss it with the applicant.
Yeah.
I think that we would prefer to just continue.
You'd prefer just to continue? All right, well, in that case, proceed. How much time do you need?
Oh, 4 minutes would be more than
okay.
enough.
You have 4 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I am Jeff Parkhurst, the project architect for the property owner. This site was developed as Navy housing more than 60 years ago and contains the original, outdated, and failing structural, plumbing, and electrical systems. The floor framing is planned, and the foundation is planned to be reinforced to meet current CBC requirements, and the plumbing and electrical systems will be replaced in their entirety. We ask your support for the project and plans as we submitted them, and the removal of the following or modification of the following special conditions. Special condition 1A1, maintaining 2 units on the property is not a sustainable condition, and the required modifications to the property as a duplex are not possible. Each of the 2 residential units are just over 1,000 square feet with 3 small bedrooms, a minimal kitchen, 1 bathroom, and 1 undersized single garage. The staff report notes that the property is just over half the city required lot size for a duplex. Special condition 1A2, every property on COA has a raised floor approximately 2 feet above grade with raised front patios that extend to the property line. This is the existing uniform condition along COA. We are not proposing any changes to this. At the 2nd floor, the structures on both sides of this property have decks that extend to the property line. We are proposing to hold the 2nd floor deck back 14 inches from the property line. Restricting all decks to 5 feet from the property line is arbitrary and inconsistent with the local conditions. This would effectively eliminate any beach-facing decks on COA. Special condition 1A3, 2 on-site parking spaces per residential unit would require that more than half the 1st floor buildable area be dedicated to garages or carports, leaving less than 800 square feet for the 1st floor unit. This is not a workable condition either functionally or financially. Special condition 1A4, we ask that the conclusions and recommendations in the wave run-up and coastal hazard study provided by Dave Skelly, ME, be used to determine the predicted sea level rise and impacts. Special condition 2, it is not feasible to maintain 2 units on the property, meet the special conditions, comply with state and city codes, and provide a viable project on the site. In conclusion, the lot does not meet the city requirements for a duplex. The structural, plumbing, and electrical systems are beyond their intended lifespan and failing. Even if the owner wanted to meet the special conditions, parking and setback requirements would make it impossible. Requiring a duplex is not sustainable or realistic for the use and appreciation of the property and will result in the continued decline of the existing structure. The owner is planning to significantly reduce the carbon footprint of the property by eliminating all natural gas use and adding solar panels on the roof to power 100% of the electrical demand. Please consider that we have the support of the city and local residents to move forward with this project. And just addressing the latest comments on the ADU, that really doesn't change it. It's still going to be used as a duplex. I know an ADU has specific requirements that don't require as much parking, but the property owner, as far as I know, is still not acceptable to providing 2 units on the property. Thank you. I'm able to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Could you repeat your name, sir?
Jeff Parkhurst.
Parkhurst?
Parkhurst.
Thank you. All right, next speaker. All right, sir, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Emil Diab.
I can't hear you that well, though. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Emil Diab. I am the owner of the property. I purchased this property 2 years ago. It's been a project of mine to finish and live in it. It's very difficult to understand all these rules and conditions on this property. I understand the property is in a very poor condition as I bought it as is. Electricity and water and plumbing and roof and foundation is in very poor condition. To maintain a property like this, a remodel or an upgrade is mandatory. It is unrentable as is to maintain this building, and to try to rent it is very difficult. The building itself, it's too small for a duplex, and I don't think it benefits the area for the foot traffic. The alley itself, it's full of cars. It's not enough place to even drive sometimes. It's very difficult to access the alley as is. So to maintain it as a duplex or a rental, I don't think it's ideal or it's a good idea for it. So I ask you to approve this project and allow us to start the process of it. And for this new update today, I don't think an ADU would be ideal because it doesn't change anything. More cars in the alley, not enough parking, and as is a very small property. And thank you. If you have any question, I can answer.
Okay, thanks very much. So let me ask if there's other, you could sit down for now, and then thanks so much. And then if we have any questions, we'll call you back up. Do we have any other speakers on this?
No other speakers.
All right, let me bring it back to staff then.
Thank you, Chair Hart. So just to be clear, the staff's recommendation isn't disputing that some work on the property is needed, given its current condition. Staff recommendation would allow for a replacement structure here, but it would require the configuration of being either a duplex or a single family with an ADU. I did want to point out one additional thing that came from our discussion with the city this morning. When this project came to us with a single family, as a single family proposal, it did have the city authorization for that. However, this morning in our discussion with the city, they acknowledged that under the Housing Crisis Act, they would need to avoid reducing the density on the property. So they told us this morning that at a minimum, they would require a single family and an ADU. So I don't think there's a circumstance here where a single family residence could be authorized, at least certainly not under our recommendation or ultimately by the city. So of course we are here for additional questions.
Thanks. Do you want to respond at all to the point that Mr. Parker's made regarding the deck?
Yes, I'm sorry. So the issue with the decks along this portion of Seal Beach, most of the homes were developed in a fashion that brings either the living space or the decks right up to the edge of the property line, the seaward property line. In redevelopment of these sites, the Commission has been recommending that these structures be set back a minimum of 5 feet, including the decks. On the ground floor, it still allows for a ground floor at-grade deck, but on the upper floors, that they would need to pull back so that there's at least a 5-foot setback there. And the reason for that is to address both the maintenance conditions. Without any real setback there, they would need to encroach into the public access way whenever they're needing to maintain the property. And we also do just have a general concern with structures coming right up to the property line where there's a relatively narrow access way and sort of looming over the public space. So it has been our recommendation for a number of years now, and the Commission has adopted that recommended setback.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I'll bring it back to the Commission for any questions or comments. I know I have a couple. All right, Commissioner Bochco.
Part of the problem is I can't hear very well in this room. I have hearing problems, and so this room is just not conducive. So I miss half of what everyone's saying. So I may just be asking for clarifications that no one else needs, but I'm going to do it. So, so the issues are, there are 2 units, one downstairs, one upstairs, that exist, and the applicant would like to make it a 1-family home.
Yes.
On 2 floors. So he's not making that much bigger or anything. It's really just the issue of 1 family or 2 families.
That's generally correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the third issue is now the city's come back and said, well, we're going to want an ADU anyway. So that would be okay with us because it's 1 family in the big house and perhaps another family in the little house.
That is, our recommendation would allow for that. Again, our preference is to replicate the current circumstance.
To have a duplex.
With 2 full units, but we are making an allowance for an ADU, yes.
I see, okay. And then the issue of the parking, if they have a garage, are we asking for 2 parking spots per unit?
So with the duplex circumstance, we would be asking for the full 2 parking spaces per unit. with an ADU, that additional parking
It's not
wouldn't be
a
required.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask the applicant a question? Yes. I'm sorry, I had a hard time.
Did you want Mr. Parkhurst or the representative of the, or the
I don't-
individual?
Whatever, whoever can answer.
All
the
right.
question.
We're both here to answer your questions.
Great.
Thank you. Now it just went out of my head. So now that you're just hearing this new configuration that could be approved, since you don't have to have as much parking if it's not a duplex, are you interested in any way making this ADU? I mean, I know we're all doing a lot of that. I just read that the LA County area is the biggest.
The city itself has many applicants for ADU. A lot of
I'm
people.
sorry.
The city itself has a lot of applicant for ADU.
Right.
If they contact the city, they'll if you request information from the city, they'll tell you how many applicant for ADU. They have many. So
No, I understand, but are you willing to build one now that you know that would solve this problem?
There's not enough room in the lot. It's if I need to have 2-car garage for myself and 2-car garage for the tenant or the ADU.
No, you don't have to an ADU. There's no parking for ADU. Don't worry about that.
It's just it's not enough room to make an ADU. It's only 2,200 square feet.
Do we have a picture of it?
Of what? Of the lot?
The 2,400 square foot lot?
The Fernie showed you on his slide the drawing.
Could we see that? Anybody know how to find it?
Yeah, give us a second. We'll bring it up.
It's a 2,400 square foot lot?
Right, 2,000 square foot, 2,100 square foot is
that's
the
small.
total of the house.
Yeah.
Or
Oh, the house, I don't care about
house
the
plus
house.
ADU.
If I could just, I could ask Fernie
Sure.
to outline, Fernie, if you could confirm
yeah.
the lot size as well as the total of the square footage of the proposed building.
Yeah, I need to,
Correct.
a picture
All right,
of the
yeah.
lot and the house would be nice.
Yeah, so on the screen above, you have the floor plan for the proposed development. So it's the single family dwelling. So the lot size is 2,700 square feet.
2,700 square feet.
Lot size,
Correct.
yes, is 20, is
So
30
once,
foot by 90
once you
foot.
build what you want to build, how much is left?
Of
Like
the-
you've got a backyard, right?
There's basically just the front deck and then the 9-foot setback on the alley side. So basically, it takes up existing
doesn't show
and
it's
proposed, takes up
Where's a picture of it?
the building lot area.
Just a sec, we're having a little bit confusion. So
I'm sorry,
Commissioner Bochco is asking if we have a picture
Yeah,
of
I
the
can't-
existing
I mean,
house.
it's hard to
Sorry,
discuss, a drawing that has no relation to the lot.
Well, you can see the property lines on there if you look.
Okay,
All
so
right.
let's just stop for a sec. So
Okay.
just to clarify,
So the property line is right by the garage.
It's 9 foot from the garage, and it is 5 foot from the front side on the beach side.
Okay,
It
so
is-
the front
it's
of this
3
is
foot-
on the sand?
No, there is a 10-foot, Seal Way is actually on the beach side of the property.
Oh, I see. Okay, you're on the road.
It's
Right.
it's actually a walkway.
it's a public
It's
path.
yeah.
Right, the lot
You know, it'd be
fronts
really
the
helpful to
public
have
walkway,
pictures of
and then the rear
need
side of the
better
property is
pictures,
adjacent
but
to the
Okay, everybody's talking over everyone, so.
I got it. Okay, so here's my point. I can personally understand how an individual owner wants to build a house for their family. Is that what we're saying here?
Yes,
And not have a duplex, right? You didn't want a duplex.
right.
Were you told at any point in the process that because of the new laws, I believe the new laws require that we cannot allow you to build one structure where there had been 2 families? Do you know that?
Not until we got recommendations from Coastal Commission after submittal. We had the plans were
Well,
approved
yeah.
by the city.
I understand. Well, cities, sometimes they don't do their job. So the problem here is somebody who
they did their
really
job pretty
doesn't
well.
need or want or know how to use a duplex. So it seems to me that if an ADU, can it be an attached ADU?
It would have to be part of the structure. It
Beg
would
your
have,
pardon?
basically, you would have to carve out a section of the first floor as
Yeah,
an
it'd be like
ADU.
where the garage is or something.
Yeah,
You'd
right.
have to
It'd
have
be
an
adjacent
ADU.
to the garage, and yeah, it would have its
All right.
own access from the outside.
Oh, yes, exactly, that's an ADU.
And I would assume that it would be acceptable to have a JADU.
I don't know, you'd have to ask staff if the city's
Staff's recommendation is for
an actual ADU.
an actual ADU.
But
that
not
is-
necessarily separate. It can be attached.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
All right, Vice Chair Escalante.
Thank you. I just, it does seem confusing, but at the same time, it seems pretty clear because of the law that says we can't lose density. I mean, originally this was purchased as a 2-unit, building. And assume, everybody sort of understood that it was small to begin with. But now we are constricted by state law, and we agree with this, that we should not lose units or density. I think the idea in which the city seems to be in agreement is to put this ADU within the house so that sort of there's an option for more than 1 unit if ever there is the need to use that, but not for it, for example, to be used as a short-term rental, but more to be available for housing. Is this what am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I am willing to make the motion for the new proposal, I guess, in accordance to the city that we have before us. I understand the owner sort of dislike of this particular design, but I don't think necessarily is going to force them to have 2 separate houses. It's just going to be, part of the house is going to have another exterior exit, which is what will make it an ADU, and a certain size and certain things within it, but more like an in-law suite, as opposed to just completely losing that from the perspective of the homeowner. So I'm willing to move forward with the motion, just to say.
Thanks. I have a couple questions.
Do you want me to-
Commissioner
you want to go
Lowenberg?
first?
I'm just not prepared for the motion just yet because I have a couple questions.
Yeah,
here.
I had a comment too.
Do you want,
So why don't we go to the commissioners and then I'll ask my questions,
can I
Commissioner
address the-
Lowenberg and then Commissioner Noto.
Can I just
You
point-
can sit down, sir. Thank you.
I just think it needs to be pointed out that this is a 2,700 square foot lot. In San Francisco, the average lot is 2,500, and there are plenty of two-unit buildings. I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands, in San Francisco. The lots are 25 by 100. They're 2-unit buildings. What we're taking out here are 3-bedroom. It's a family can live here. So unless it's 2 units, I'm not willing to take out a unit. That's just where I come from. And this notion that this is so small, it's 2,700 square feet. That means it's 2,700 square feet and 2,700 square feet. You're not cutting it in half. Sure, it's not all livable space, but okay, take it down if it's 2,000 square foot. I mean, plenty of people live in 2,000 square, families live in a 2,000 square foot apartment. This is what we should not be taking out. This is affordable. This is not a luxury unit. This is an affordable unit. And the other thing I would object to is when the tides go up and sea levels rise, it's going to be the ADU unit that's going to be wiped out on the bottom. I mean, I know there are homes where we have to have breakaway at the bottom. Do we require that?
That isn't a requirement of our conditions right now. There is a requirement, though, for some waterproofing measures and other floodproofing measures to be incorporated into the ground floor unit.
Okay. Well, I think that, we're going in the opposite direction if we start taking units out. I mean, it's just, we're now making the problem 1 unit worse. And if we do it 1 unit at a time, I mean, we're going the wrong direction, in my opinion.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Noto?
I just wanted to thank staff for making sure that we don't reduce density in these residential areas. This is actually quite a special place. There's not a lot of multifamily, multi-unit places on the beach in California, so it's a special place. So I think the adjustment that staff is recommending is something I could support as well. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Aguirre?
Thank you, Chair. I'm having difficulty also with eliminating 2 units, and I'm just curious to staff, what was the rationale that the city stated for saying that they weren't going to support that? That seems a bit arbitrary, but it may be because I don't know why.
It's my understanding it's based on their density requirements, essentially, that they have a certain square footage, amount of square footage that has to exist per unit, and this site wouldn't offer all of that square footage for 2 full units. But again, under the Housing Crisis Act, we believe this could be authorized.
So do they have an updated LCP?
No, there is no certified land use plan or implementation plan. However, the city is working on that, and we have had some discussions with them specifically about this density issue and addressing it in the LCP.
So the density laws that they have in the books is just city ordinances they're operating under?
That's correct. It's not, there's no LCP in operation here, so the standard of review is the Coastal Act.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have a couple comments. I have to say that I'm not sure that the applicant is aware, but they should be. The state there's a huge housing crisis in this state, and this commission, among other government agencies, is under a huge amount of pressure to make sure that housing density is not diminished, particularly in areas that are so important like this right on the coast. I am concerned about putting the applicant in that kind of quandary, where you go from entity to entity. I think it's going to require, if in fact we follow staff's original recommendation, which I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners they're inclined to do, that the commission staff work with the city to make sure that these folks don't get stuck where they can't do anything. I'm concerned about that.
Through the chair, I agree. I think that was why we suggested the revisions we did. So we were not putting this particular applicant in a position where they have kind of dueling agencies. Yeah. We were trying to increase some flexibility while maintaining the requirement for not losing the density that exists on the site. And as as Carl mentioned, we're working with the city on LCP policies, and so this is something that on a broader scale, we would expect to address with the city as part of their LCP. So but on this particular property with this particular applicant and proposed project, that the intent was to provide some flexibility for them to provide an ADU, because we thought that, our indication from the city is that was something that they could approve. Whereas even though we believe that the duplex, would also be approvable given the state laws that overrule local ordinances, the city has been less clear about their willingness to move forward, and so we just wanted to provide some flexibility for this applicant.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me about having the separate unit is the requirement for 2 more parking places, which really would just take up, in my opinion, so much of the lot. So I don't know how the mover, which is going to be Vice Chair Escalante, feels what the motion will be, but from my perspective, I think having the ADU as an option, and it's a minimum of 1,000 feet is being required, does provide an addition, does not diminish density. So personally, I think particularly because of the parking requirements and because of this situation of being caught up in this city's planning, just going back and forth, I'm supportive of the ADU or the duplex, but we'll see what the motion is and how we go forward. So turning back to you, Vice Chair, did you want to make the motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion and then we can discuss if we're going to.
I'll second.
Tweak it. I move that the commission approve coastal development permit number 5-23-0682 pursuant to staff recommendation And that would be a yes vote, and then we can discuss.
And I'll second.
And so staff currently is recommending an ADU or a duplex. Is that your motion? That's the staff recommendation as it
Yes.
exists today. Right. Is that your motion, Vice Chair?
So my understanding is that this motion will allow sort of the homeowner and the developers to do a single-family unit with an ADU or a duplex. If it does an ADU, it won't have the same parking requirements.
That's correct.
Okay.
Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Nodoff. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Or should we just go to a vote? All right, not seeing any further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Harmon? Yes. Harmon, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg?
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nodoff?
Aye.
Nodoff, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders?
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga?
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes.
Aguirre, yes. Commissioner Bochco?
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Cummings?
Abstain.
Cummings abstains. Commissioner Escalante?
Yes.
Escalante, yes. Chair Hart?
Yes.
Hart, yes. The vote is 9 yes with 1 abstention.
All right, thank you very much. All right, my understanding is that our last item that's on our calendar today. All right, so we're going to have lunch and closed session, and thank everyone that's here today very much, and we will see everyone tomorrow. We'll report out on closed session tomorrow morning.
Chair, we do have
Yes.
statewide items. Would you like to
Would you like to do that today? Sure, we might as well. Why don't we do that? And my understanding is on the statewide items, we have first approval of minutes. Do we have any minutes? No. Any commissioners' reports? Not seeing any. We don't have subcommittees. The Conservancy report will be Dr. Hucklebridge.
Yes, thank you. The Coastal Conservancy met in Sacramento on June 6th. Madeline Cavalieri, Deputy Executive Director, attended that meeting as the alternate for Chair Hart. The Conservancy Board took action on a number of grants for work in the Commission's jurisdiction. From north to south, these projects include: 1, a feasibility study for expanded camping at Clifford Camp Memorial Park, the northern gateway to the Coastal Trail in Delnor County. 2, a sea level rise study at South Beach in Crescent City. 3, a habitat enhancement at Lower Prairie Creek in Humboldt County. 4, a wetland enhancement at Chicken Ranch Beach on Tomales Bay in Marin. 5, renovations at the Santa Cruz Hostel in the city of Santa Cruz. 6, a coastal trail trailhead and access point at Fort Ord Dune State Park. 7, the Loma Alta Slough Wetland Enhancement Project in Oceanside. And 8, wildfire resiliency work in San Luis Obispo County. All of these projects further the goals of the Coastal Act and enhance California's coastal resources, and we appreciate all of the work done by the Coastal Conservancy. This Conservancy meeting also included a progress report on justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion work at the Conservancy and presentations on sea level rise in California, including an update on the latest best available sea level rise science included in OPC's updated sea level rise guidance. The board also approved signing on to a new memorandum of understanding to coordinate efforts to address the threats of flooding and sea level rise in the San Francisco Bay. Parties to the MOU include the Association of Bay Area Governments, Bay Area Quality Management District, Bay Area Regional Collaborative, Caltrans District 4, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, BCDC, and the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board. The MOU identifies essential functions and activities needed to address sea level rise threats and identifies the agency's best position to serve as the lead on funding, planning, technical assistance, regulatory alignment, and collaborative decision-making. Although the San Francisco Bay is obviously not in the Commission's jurisdiction, the MOU provides a good model for guiding this kind of complex collaboration that is needed to successfully plan for sea level rise up and down the coast. And Commission staff will be looking carefully at whether it could be used as a model for work in the Commission's jurisdiction. And that concludes the Conservancy report.
Thanks, and I just want to express my appreciation for Madeline Cavalieri attending that meeting on my behalf, and I look forward to the next meeting of the Conservancy up in Fortuna and Eureka area, September 4th and 5th. All right, what about the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy report? Anything on that? Is that you, Commissioner Bochco? No. There was no meeting, okay. Santa Monica Bay Restoration report? All right, and Deputy Attorney General's report?
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Haley Peterson with the Attorney General's Office, and I would like to report on 2 favorable trial court decisions. The first is in the Friends of Newport Harbor versus Coastal Commission case. This was a lawsuit brought by Friends of Newport Harbor challenging the construction of a confined aquatic disposal facility in Newport Beach's harbor. The lawsuit alleged that the Commission's issuance of a CDP violated the Coastal Act and its obligations under CEQA, and the trial court denied the petition in its entirety based on statute of limitations and found that substantial evidence supported the Commission's decision. The second action is one of the Friends of Oceano Dunes versus California Coastal Commission actions. In this action, petition challenged the executive director's approval of an emergency CDP which authorized state parks to undertake certain development related to dust control and monitoring. The court determined the action was moot because the development is complete. Parks obtained the follow-up permit authorizing the dust control measures, and therefore there was no relief that the court could offer. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Ms. Peterson. Appreciate it. All right, anything else? All right, great. In that case, we will close the meeting for today. We will go into closed session this afternoon and report out tomorrow morning, and we'll see everyone at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.